Chapter 1191. The great heaven-deriving sword was becoming more and more ferocious, but the dancing crane technique was unusually mysterious. Zhao Qianxing could always avoid the tip of the sword and maintain a constant distance from it. No matter how exquisite Chu Li's technique was, Zhao Qianxing remained calm and collected. Chu Li did not panic, but the other three were anxious. If this went on, they might not be able to defeat Zhao Qianxing. There was a natural moat between outer cliff disciples and inner cliff disciples, and it was extremely difficult to break through. If one's aptitude, cultivation method, and cultivation time were inferior, it would be extremely difficult to defeat an inner cliff disciple. In the past 100 years, no one had managed to do so. He Shu and the other two were secretly excited. They wanted to see if Chu Li could complete this step. If they could complete it, it would be a great encouragement to them. They had already given up in despair. If they could really enter the inner cliff, they would not be in such a state now. They would definitely cultivate even harder. Chu Li's swordsmanship became slower and slower. It was as if he had to think about every thrust of his sword. Zhao Qianxing's expression became even more serious. Instead of taking advantage of the fact that Chu Li was slowing down to charge at him, Zhao Qianxing desperately wanted to get out of the sword force's range. This was an instinctive impulse, as he sensed that the great heaven-deriving sword's power was getting stronger. Chu Li also noticed that the power of the great heaven-deriving sword was getting stronger. It was as if the great heaven-deriving sword was naturally changing as it became more familiar with Zhao Qianxing's body movement technique. It was faintly restraining Zhao Qianxing's body movement technique so that he could not simply retreat and avoid the tip of the sword. Chu Li pondered for a moment. It seemed like it was not realistic to rely on the great heaven-deriving sword to defeat the dancing crane technique. He was currently disguised as Lu Guangdi, so he could not use his own cultivation and mystical techniques. He could only use Lu Guangdi's martial arts. Previously, he had already learned Lu Guangdi's Raging Billows heart technique, so his inner energy was driven by the Raging Billows heart technique. Since he could not use his own inner energy to drive his martial arts, his power was already a notch lower. Since he could not use the petrifying finger and other mystical techniques, he could only use the great heaven-deriving sword and Philip Swift thunder. No matter what, he had only practiced it for slightly more than 10 days. He was still far from mastering it, so he could not display its full power. Therefore, it was very difficult for him to deal with Zhao Qianxing. The great heaven-deriving sword changed abruptly. It was as swift and fierce as lightning, and it stabbed more than a dozen times in an instant. The sky was filled with sword shadows that enveloped Zhao Qianxing. Zhao Qianxing's eyes glinted as he discovered a flaw. He felt that Chu Li had revealed such a flaw because he was anxious. He suddenly appeared in front of Chu Li and slammed his palm down. Chu Li used Philip Swift thunder. Bang! An explosive sound rang out. It was as if firecrackers had exploded between their palms. Zhao Qianxing clenched his palm into a fist and continued smashing over. He was completely unaffected by snapping Swift thunder. Chu Li resisted the urge to use imminent skyline and took the punch head-on. He was sent flying. He somersaulted in the air to dissipate the force of the punch. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he landed steadily on the ground and frowned at Zhao Qianxing. Zhao Qianxing cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Thanks for letting me win, junior brother Lu." "What fist technique is brother Zhao using?" Chu Li scoffed. "Great demon taming fist," Zhao Qianxing declared proudly. Chu Li frowned. "You're not afraid of the Philip Swift thunder? The great demon subduing fist can restrain all strange powers. It is neutral and peaceful, and no evil cannot subdue it." Zhao Qianxing smiled. I know that you cultivate Philip Swift Thunder, so of course I've thought of a way to counter it. Chu Li scoffed. Could it be that the Philip Swift Thunder can't break the great demon fist? Not unless you've mastered Philip Swift Thunder to perfection. Zhao Qianxing said. Chu Li nodded. All right, I've lost, Zhao Qianxing said. Junior brother Lu, you've actually almost defeated me. Chu Li curled his lips into a sneer and glared at him. Zhao Qianxing grinned. You've only been in the outer cliff for more than 10 days, but you're already so powerful. There's indeed hope for you to enter the inner cliff. I'll enter. Chu Li scoffed. Zhao Qianxing said, outer cliff disciples can choose 4 martial arts for free. Since you've chosen 2, you can choose another 2. Who knows, you might be able to defeat me. Chu Li snorted. I will. Zhao Qianxing glanced at the other 3 and cupped his fists. All of you must work hard too. Don't fall too far behind junior brother Lu. Yes. He Shu and the other 2 immediately cupped their fists. Zhao Qianxing walked away slowly. His green robe fluttered in the wind, making him look handsome. Chu Li gritted his teeth and lowered his head to look at his fingers and the long sword that had not been sheathed. He Shu and the other 2 surrounded him. Junior brother Lu, you're amazing. He Shu sighed. You're really close. Chu Li said, it might seem close, but it's actually far from it. I can't break through his inner energy at all. I can't do anything to him with my sword technique or inner energy. There's no hope at all. Zhao Qianxing is the youth champion. How can he be defeated so easily? Zhang smiled. It's not easy to fight to this extent. Let's take it slow. Chu Li scoffed. If we take it slow, we'll fall further behind. What should we do then? Zhang was indifferent. Our heart technique can't compare to his. Chu Li shook his head without saying a word. Sun Jia had been deep in thought and was deeply touched. He looked up and asked, Junior brother Lu, what's your plan? Are you going to choose 2 more martial arts? Chu Li shook his head. I want to master my sword technique and finger technique. That's true. Sun Jia nodded. Chu Li cupped his fists and bid farewell to the 3 before he returned to his room to continue cultivating. Just as he sat down, footsteps were heard. Lu Zhengjun had entered. Chu Li looked up at him. Lu Zhengjun asked, You lost? Chu Li nodded. Lu Zhengjun smiled. Zhao Qianxing won't be defeated that easily. He encountered Chu Li the last time he came out of the cliff and was greatly stimulated. After he came back, he went into isolated cultivation and improved his martial arts greatly. He's truly the youth champion now. Chu Li fell silent. Chu Li was not surprised that Zhao Qianxing's cultivation level had improved greatly. Geniuses like him had always improved quickly. For example, Chu Li, Lu Yurong, and Fa Yuan had improved tremendously. However, Chu Li did not expect Zhao Qianxing to be stimulated by him. This was interesting. What's your plan? I want to continue cultivating the great heaven-deriving sword and Philip Swift Thunder to perfect mastery. Chu Li frowned. Will I be able to defeat Zhao Qianxing then? Instead of perfect mastery, why don't you start cultivating 2 new martial arts? Lu Zhengjun suggested. It'll save you energy. It's the hardest before perfect mastery. It might take a year, 2 years, or even 8 to 10 years. It was difficult to achieve perfect mastery in heaven and earth. This was the way of heaven and earth. The effort needed to achieve perfect mastery was unimaginable. I want to take this path, Chu Li said. All right. Lu Zhengjun did not force Chu Li. It was necessary for a powerhouse to face difficulties head-on. He was satisfied with Chu Li's choice. But I won't be able to help much if you continue cultivating, Lu Zhengjun said. My Philip Swift thunder is about the same level as yours, so you'll have to figure it out yourself. The great heavenly riving sword can continue to help you. I want to spar with more masters, Chu Li said. Then you can only accumulate external cultivation, Lu Zhengjun said. Chu Li frowned. Can I spar with inner cliff disciples? Outer cliff disciples can only stay here. They can't enter the inner cliff, Lu Zhengjun said. Inner cliff disciples can come here, but outer cliff disciples can't. Isn't that unfair? Chapter 1193. As He Shu and the other two watched Zhao Tianqing leave, they dashed toward Chu Li excitedly as they were overjoyed. Zhang Ye bounced his chubby body and danced with joy as he laughed out loud. I'm going to the inner cliff. I'm going to the inner cliff. Chu Li shook his head calmly. I haven't passed the challenge stage. Junior brother Lu, you've defeated senior brother Zhao Tianqing. Who else can defeat you? You'll succeed, Zhang Ye exclaimed excitedly. The inner cliff, the inner cliff, the inner cliff, the inner cliff. Chu Li replied, the inner cliff isn't that great. I don't have that much freedom. If you want freedom, you'll have to master your martial arts. If your martial arts aren't good, you won't be free no matter where you go, whether you're dead or alive. He shook his head and chuckled. Junior brother Lu, why aren't you happy at all? Chu Li replied, it's only natural. There's nothing to be happy about. Ha ha, He laughed out loud. Great, that's a great spirit. Sun Jia smiled. Junior brother Lu, wait for us in the inner cliff. We'll go in too. Chu Li nodded. Zhang Ye quickly waved his hand. Don't, senior brother's son, I can't go in. I can't defeat someone like senior brother Zhao. Look at how useless you are. Sun Jia grumbled. Zhang Ye replied, one must be down to earth. I'm already satisfied that I'm able to enter the outer cliff. It's impossible for me to enter the inner cliff. I won't have wishful thinking and torture myself. In short, happiness is the most important thing in the inner cliff or the outer cliff. No wonder you're so fat. Sun Jia scoffed. Chu Li fist saluted and returned to his house to continue cultivating Philip Swift thunder. Since he had overcome the dancing crane technique, he did not use Philip Swift thunder, but he knew he had to rely on it during crucial moments. Since he had a deep understanding of the petrifying finger, he was particularly enthusiastic about cultivating Philip Swift thunder. At dawn the next day, just as Yangming completed a full circulation of Philip Swift thunder and walked through the first 6 levels, Lu Zhengjun strode into the house and waved his hand. Let's go to the challenge ring. The challenge stage was located at the easternmost precipice of the island. The cliff was like a long sword that pierced the sky. It was more than 200 meters tall and was more than 60 floors high. It towered majestically. A circular platform was built under the stone wall, which was usually used for sacrificial ceremonies. Ascending from the outer cliff to the inner cliff was a big event that had to be announced to the ancestors. That was why the challenge was held here. More than 500 people stood below the stage, and Chu Li was amazed. He did not expect there to be so many people in Green Deer Cliff. He thought there were only a few dozen of them. After all, they had never shown themselves to the world, which gave him the impression that there were not many people. Almost all of them were young and middle-aged, with only a few elderly people. He noticed that the disciples of Green Deer Cliff were skilled in maintaining their youthful looks. Even though they were more than 100 years old, they still looked like they were in their 40s. Only those who were more than 200 years old showed signs of aging, with their hair and eyebrows all white. As for those who were more than 300 years old, they rarely showed themselves, so he had no chance to meet them. An old man with a white beard and eyebrows stood on the stage and said a few words in a deep voice. It was nothing more than an outer cliff disciple finally stepping into the inner cliff, which was a great event worthy of celebration. As long as he succeeded in the challenge, he would be the first outer cliff disciple to step into the inner cliff in 100 years and would become a pillar of Green Deer Cliff. As an elder of Green Deer Cliff, he sincerely wished him success in the challenge. Then, Chu Li stepped onto the stage and looked down at the crowd. He gave a fist salute and said, "Senior brothers, please give me your guidance." His gaze swept across the crowd below the stage, and he discovered that most of the young disciples he had met once before and had already sparred with. After a while, a tall and thin young man glided onto the stage. He was stabbed in the shoulder by Chu Li in a few moves and was forced off the stage. After that, no one else stepped onto the stage to challenge him. It was different from what everyone had expected. It was not as lively and exciting as they had expected. It was as if no one was interested in challenging him, or they were working together to help him pass. The old man with a white beard and eyebrows stepped onto the stage again. He looked down at the crowd and said, "Disciples, you should know the rules. If young Lu enters the inner cliff, all of you will be fined a year's salary and have a year's supply of pills deducted. Think about this carefully." The crowd looked at him helplessly. They could tell that Honorable Master Ning thought they were going easy on him and that they were giving in to Masters Junior Lu on purpose. However, he did not know that most of them had witnessed Chu Li's great heaven-deriving sword technique and were no match for him. Even if they had other martial arts, they would not be able to win against the great heaven-deriving sword technique. Since Zhao Tianxing was no match for him, they did not have to waste their time. From now on, come up one by one. Everyone must fight with young Lu. Ning Tsai, who had a white beard and eyebrows, scoffed. "Zhao Tianxing, you go first." Zhao Tianxing gave a fist salute. "Honorable Master Ning, I fought with him yesterday and was injured." The simple and old-thatched hut looked like it would be blown away by the wind or broken by the rain at any time. Under Ning Tsai's lead, the 11 of them slowly walked to the front of the thatched hut. Ning Tsai said, "Masters Junior Hua, I've brought him here. Come in." A weathered voice came from inside. Chu Li and the others pushed open the simple door and slowly entered. It was clean and bright inside. It was as warm as spring. It was as if they were in another world. An old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion sat on the wooden floor. His round face was as rosy as a baby's, and his eyes were bright. When he glanced at them, it was as if he could see through everything. "Masters Junior Hua, this is the new inner cliff disciple, Lu Guangdi," Ning Tsai said respectfully, with a fist salute. It's been 100 years, right?" Masters Junior Hua asked gently. Honorable Master Ning nodded. "Young Lu, take a seat." Masters Junior Hua pointed at a cattail hassock opposite him. Chapter 1194. However, there was no turning back now. He slowly inhaled and exhaled, then sat on the cattail hassock. "Close your eyes," Masters Junior Hua said in a deep voice. Chu Li closed his eyes. Masters Junior Hua took out a stone from his pocket. It was black like an inkstone, but it was faintly shining with a strange brilliance. He pinched the stone and slowly closed his eyes. The others widened their eyes and stared at him without blinking. They had all gone through this stage and knew that the next step was to fall into an illusion. They would remember their most profound scene, and when they woke up, they would have completed the step of questioning their hearts. It would be like a dream, and they would not remember what they asked. They saw that the black stone was getting brighter and brighter. The black light slowly spread and surrounded them. Then they slowly fell into a beautiful dream. Gradually, they did not know where they were. Then They entered the deepest and most profound scene of their lives. After some time, when they woke up, Chu Li was already standing in front of Masters Jr. Hua, fist saluting. Masters Jr. Hua frowned and looked at Chu Li thoughtfully. Previously, when he used the heart-questioning stone, anyone within a mile of the stone would enter a dream. Then, they would open up their hearts and accept his interrogation. He was able to enter the other party's dream and see everything clearly as if he was experiencing it himself. This was the beauty of the heart-questioning stone. It was mysterious and unpredictable. It was said that it did not belong to this world, but came from Outland. As for Lu Guangdi, the dream he entered was the scene of his mother's death. Furthermore, his father appeared as well. This showed how much he hated and pestered his father, Lu Zhengjun. Lu Guangdi was grateful for the primary heaven pill he gave him as compensation, but at the same time, he hated his father's heartlessness towards his mother and his lack of gratitude towards him. Lu Guangdi wanted to master his martial arts and defeat his father so that he could live the rest of his life proudly and make his mother proud. This scene was very normal, so he did not think there was anything wrong with it. However, he felt that something was wrong. It was as if there was something wrong with Lu Guangdi's state of mind, but he could not figure out what was wrong. However, this feeling made him very cautious. This was the first time in hundreds of years. He believed in the mysteriousness of the conscience stone. Wherever it went, no one could resist. Even if it was the headmaster, he wouldn't be able to resist. Therefore, as the owner of the conscience stone, he swore that he would never leave this cliff. He had been staying on the cliff and inside the thatched cottage. His heart was pure and calm. He was extremely meticulous and sensitive. Even the slightest abnormality could not escape his senses. He felt that something was wrong with Chu Li. Although he could not pinpoint it, he believed in his intuition. All of you may leave. Ning Tsai waved his hand and said, I have something to say to Marshal Uncle Hua. Yes. Everyone cupped their fists and left the thatched cottage, fluttering down the precipice. Chu Li frowned. He could tell that there was something wrong with Marshal Uncle Hua. Obviously, he had discovered that there was something wrong with him. The conscience-questioning stone was mysterious and unfathomable. A strange force was about to knock him out, but at the crucial moment, Mahavairocana's immobility scripture and Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture were activated as well. As a result, all the abnormalities disappeared. Chu Li imitated the people around him and pretended to be in a dream. He then tried his best to imitate Master's immobility scripture and Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture. Although ordinary people would not be able to tell, he could not guarantee that he could fool Master's immobility scripture. He realized that Master's immobility scripture was an expert in the cultivation of soul power. Master's immobility scripture and Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture were very sensitive. It was Chu Li's first time meeting such a difficult person. If it was not for Mahavairocana's immobility scripture and Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture, he would not be able to escape from the interrogation. Chu Li tried his best to imitate Master's immobility scripture, but imitation was imitation. He might be able to fool ordinary people, but he might not be able to fool Master's immobility scripture. Junior brother Lu, congratulations. Zhao Tianqing patted Chu Li's shoulder and chuckled. You're the first person to enter the inner cliff from the outer cliff in 100 years. Although everyone was punished, I'm still very happy. Chu Li glanced at him and said, I'm really sorry, senior brothers, but can I enter the inner cliff? I wonder what happened to Conscience Hall. Don't worry. If there's anything wrong with you, you'd have been restrained long ago. We wouldn't have to wait for you to wake up. Zhao Tianqing grinned. Moreover, Your master's immobility scriptures, son. We're family. Him. Chu Li's face turned cold. He turned around and left. Zhao Qianxing looked at him helplessly. Chu Li changed his attitude too quickly. He's obviously a spoiled brat. God's favored one. What a bad temper. Lu Zhengjun approached him and smiled when he looked at Chu Li. Chu Li said, I want to go back. Where? The outer cliff. You're an inner cliff disciple now. Why are you going to the outer cliff? Lu Zhengjun frowned. Chu Li replied, I want to go back and take a look. Go ahead. Lu Zhengjun waved his hand. Did you know the way? Chu Li nodded. It was similar to how there was a formation to enter the inner cliff from the outer cliff, but there was no formation to enter the outer cliff from the inner cliff. Lu Zhengjun watched as Chu Li disappeared before he turned to face Ning Tsai. Ning Tsai looked at him and shook his head. No. Lu Zhengjun's expression changed. Masters Junior Ning, what do you mean? Young Lu didn't pass Conscience Hall, so he can't enter the inner cliff. Ning Tsai said, What? Didn't pass Conscience Hall? Lu Zhengjun was in disbelief. How's that possible? Why is it impossible? Ning Tsai asked. Let me ask you, how often do you see him? Once a year, Lu Zhengjun answered. Ning Tsai asked, Did you notice anything strange about him? Strange? Lu Zhengjun frowned. He's been staying in Tide Listening Pavilion and often cultivates in isolation. He cultivated with all his might to get to where he is today, and he's the most hard-working among my children. But there's something wrong with him. Ning Tsai shook his head. Masters Junior Hua said that it's not appropriate for him to enter the inner cliff, and that he should be an outer cliff disciple. Lu Zhengjun quickly asked, What's wrong? Ning Tsai answered, Masters Junior Hua can't say for sure. It's purely his intuition, and Masters Junior Hua's intuition is very accurate. No, I won't accept it if I don't get to the bottom of this. Lu Zhengjun shook his head. He's suffered so much to enter the inner cliff, and now that he's finally going to enter, how can he be told that he can't? That's too torturous. Ning Tsai questioned, Can you change Masters Junior Hua's decision? But even Masters Junior Hua can't do that. We have to get to the bottom of this. Lu Zhengjun uttered. No, I have to look for Masters Junior Hua. Go if you don't want to give up. Ning Tsai shook his head. You can't change Masters Junior Hua's decision. I want to try. Lu Zhengjun scoffed. He cupped his fists and went up to the thatched cottage at the top of the stone wall, then knocked on the door before entering. Masters Junior Hua was sitting on the wooden board with his eyes closed as if he was asleep. Activating the conscience stone consumed a lot of mental energy, and he had experienced 12 of their dreams, so he was on the verge of falling asleep. Lu Zhengjun sat opposite Masters Junior Hua and did a fist salute. Masters Junior Hua, may I ask what's wrong with my son? How about this? Ask him to come again tomorrow, Masters Junior Hua said. Chapter 1195. When Chu Li did not see Lu Zhengjun for a while, he knew something was wrong. Green Deer Cliff might start to suspect his identity. The best thing to do was to escape right away so that nobody would be able to find him. If Green Deer Cliff made a move, they might be able to catch him. Nonetheless, it was a pity that things had come to this. Chu Li still had God's limbs, so he could leave as soon as things went south. However, he soon realized that he could not use God's limbs, so he had to rely on his martial arts to escape. Although he was not invincible in the world, Green Deer Cliff had many crouching tigers and hidden dragons and countless experts. However, in a sudden situation, he might be able to put up a fight and escape, right? He was not confident at all. After all, Green Deer Cliff was one of the 4 major sects and had many tricks up their sleeves. What exactly caused him to suspect something? Was there something wrong with the dream that he imagined? Chu Li pondered. He was envious of the conscience stone. Not only could the stone read one's mind, but it could also be used to control enemies. By activating it, one could pull enemies within a mile into the dream and kill them in the dream. Would that not be the end of everything? It would not be an assassination. Unfortunately, he could only think about it. He dared not steal the stone, or he would be hunted down by the entire Green Deer Cliff. If there was a next time, how should he deal with the conscience stone? Should he activate the life and death scripture again and hide all his martial arts? Or should he hypnotize himself and let his guard down so that he would be able to react freely once he was hypnotized? During dinner, Lu Zhengjun did not show up as if he had forgotten about this place. Chu Li calmed down and was not anxious at all. He Shu and the other two joined him. The four of them gathered around a stone table in the forest, sitting on a tree stump and eating. Junior brother Lu, you're going to enter the inner cliff. Congratulations. He Shu praised, the first person in 100 years. You have a bright future. We'll be counting on you to take care of us in the future. Chu Li shook his head. I'm afraid I won't be able to enter. Is there a more powerful opponent? He Shu asked. Chu Li replied, it's hard to say. You'll find out in the future. He did not know if the existence of Conscience Hall was kept a secret, so he did not want to bring trouble upon himself. Why can't you tell me? Zhang Ye asked anxiously. Won't you be able to enter the inner cliff if you defeat all the young disciples? There's one more stage, Chu Li said. Everyone, don't ask what this stage is. All right, I won't ask, He Shu hurriedly said. Footsteps were heard as Lu Zhengjun hurried over. Come with me tomorrow. I have something to ask you. All right, Chu Li lowered his head and said. Lu Zhengjun looked at him, then shook his head and left in a hurry. Do you have any masters before this? Who are they? Why did you enter Green Deer Cliff? Chu Li answered all of them. Once he was done, Hua Tianyang let go of the conscience stone and put it back into his pocket. He frowned as he looked at Chu Li. His mind was clear, and the uneasiness disappeared. Hua Tianyang could not help but look at the white jade pendant in Lu Zhengjun's pocket. He nodded as he understood the reason. It was because of the white jade pendant. The jade pendant could keep one's mind clear even if one was in a dream and would not be invaded by evil thoughts. Since the jade pendant had such an effect, Chu Li could not be lured into Green Deer Cliff's inner cliff by someone with ill intentions. Honorable Master, how is it? Lu Zhengjun asked. Hua Tianyang answered, you can enter the inner cliff. Thank you, Honorable Master. Lu Zhengjun was overjoyed. He stood up and bowed. Hua Tianyang waved his hand. I see, it's all because of this jade pendant. You must take good care of it. Don't lose it. Yes. Lu Zhengjun nodded. After some thought, he kept the jade pendant in his pocket. Hua Tianyang smiled, without saying a word. Chu Li slowly woke up. Lu Zhengjun smiled. Hurry up and thank Honorable Master Hua. You've passed. Chu Li was stunned. Then he gave a fist salute. Hua Tianyang waved his hand. Congratulations. From now on, you're an inner cliff disciple of Green Deer Cliff. Cultivate well. You're more intelligent than others. You'll become an outstanding person in Green Deer Cliff. Yes. Chu Li nodded calmly. Hua Tianyang waved his hand. Go, go. Lu Zhengjun bowed again, then led Chu Li down the cliff. Then he laughed out loud. The first person in 100 years. His illegitimate son really lived up to his expectations. He became the first person in 100 years. Chu Li reached out his hand. Lu Zhengjun was stunned. Chu Li uttered, the jade pendant. Lu Zhengjun said, I'll keep it for you. You won't need it now anyway. Chu frowned at him. He wanted to integrate the great heaven-deriving sword into his original sword technique. This way, he could balance speed and subtlety. It would be extremely difficult, but if he succeeded, the power of his sword technique would be astonishing. After practicing his sword technique for a while, he began to cultivate Philip Swift thunder. Time flowed like water. In the blink of an eye, it was the next day. Early in the morning, when he was practicing his sword technique, Zhao Tianxing came to him again and handed him a wooden tag. The wood was made of a strange material. It was unusually hard and emitted a faint fragrance. Chu Li had the all-knowing scripture, so his sense of smell was unusually sharp. With this wooden tag, he could smell it even from a mile away. Moreover, the smell had a calming effect, so it was obviously not an ordinary wood. It was similar to the legendary sky tree. If it was really this wood, this tag would have many other wonderful uses. Junior brother Lu, let's go. I know you want to go to the sutra library the most. Follow me, Zhao Tianxing said with a smile. Chu Li fist saluted and followed Zhao Tianxing out of the courtyard. After walking for more than a mile, they arrived at a towering building. When he stood downstairs, he noticed that the building was made of black iron. It was towering, and he felt an enormous pressure as he stood below. He felt extraordinarily small and insignificant. What secret manual are you looking for? Zhao Tianxing asked. Chu Li replied, Spirit crane technique. Oh, a foundation building technique. Are you going to cultivate green deer cliffs, martial arts from the beginning? Yes. Are you going to cultivate dancing cranes at the 9th heaven after mastering spirit crane technique? Zhao Tianxing said with a smile. Then you'll have to hurry up. Spirit crane technique isn't easy to cultivate. We've all started from a young age and spent several years to cultivate the first level. Chu Li nodded. Logically speaking, the deeper one cultivates spirit crane technique, the easier it is to cultivate dancing cranes at the 9th heaven. Unfortunately, cultivating spirit crane technique is too slow. People usually start cultivating dancing cranes at the first level. How many levels do you plan to cultivate? Perfected, Chu Li replied. Zhao Tianxing shook his head and laughed. Chu Li asked, Senior brother Zhao, why are you laughing? After flipping through 6 levels in one go, he closed the secret manual and carefully placed it back in its original place. Then he closed his eyes and began to simulate in his mind. As he moved slowly, a wisp of fresh air seemed to linger around him. He had previously comprehended the 6 forms of spirit crane and was extremely familiar with the expressions and behaviors of spirit cranes. He also knew their thoughts, so it was much easier for him to cultivate the spirit crane technique than ordinary people. He opened his eyes and continued to read the other insights. He flipped through one book after another and imprinted them into his mind. When he needed to use them, he could just search for them in his mind. Hence, he flipped through them very quickly. By the time the sky turned dark, he had already flipped through the 1,000 volumes of insights. There were still some small techniques that needed time to master. The sutra library was already filled with a gentle, milky, white brilliance. There were luminous pearls hanging everywhere. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. How extravagant! There were so many luminous pearls. Any one of them could be sold outside, and one could live a carefree life. He walked out of the sutra library and returned to the small courtyard without reading any other books. The small courtyard was already brightly lit. Chu Li was stunned. He pushed the door open and saw a delicate and pretty young girl already standing inside. She was cleaning the courtyard. When she saw him, she quickly curtsied. Chu Li was stunned. You are... I'm Su Mei. Greetings, senior brother Lu, the young girl said crisply. Chu Li looked at her in confusion. She was dressed in a green tunic and had a graceful figure. Although she was not extremely beautiful, she was still delicate and lovely. Sume said, "I was ordered to serve senior brother Lu." Chu Li was even more confused. "I'm not an official disciple," Sume said. "I'm not talented, so I can only be a maid." "Then why did you come to Green Deer Cliff?" "My parents are disciples of Green Deer Cliff," Sume said. She spoke slowly, softly, and calmly. Chu Li smiled bitterly. "Then who would dare to let you serve them? What does that matter?" Sume said, "I can't just sit around and do nothing. I have to help the cliff." "All right." Chu Li nodded. The children of Green Deer Cliff, disciples, might not necessarily be talented. Since Green Deer Cliff was very strict in accepting disciples, the children of these disciples could not be thrown out of Green Deer Cliff. It would be too unreasonable. They could only stay on the island. They could not become disciples of Green Deer Cliff, and could only be maids or scribes. However, it was obvious that the status of these maids would not be low. After all, their parents were around, so they had to show respect for Green Deer Cliff. Sume left with light footsteps and soon returned with a box of rice. Chapter 1198. Along the way, he did not run into many Green Deer Cliff disciples. Most of them were young men, and even middle-aged men were rare. He did not see any children or elders either. It was as if there were only young people on this island. He vaguely guessed that the old man and the child did not live here, but on another island. Such a huge island was only a part of Green Deer Cliff. This made him even more curious about Green Deer Cliff. It seemed that there were many mysteries to uncover. Nonetheless, he did not want to dig too deep. The key was still the spirit crane technique. He only came to Green Deer Cliff to obtain the spirit crane technique, and was not in a hurry to learn other martial arts. The antique studies that he had cultivated were enough, so there was no need for him to be greedy. He was already able to enter the Sutra Library of Great Light Peak and read through the books in the library one by one. However, he did not flip through too many pages lest he got distracted and wasted his energy neglecting the antique studies that he was currently cultivating. Although the Sutra Library of Green Deer Cliff was better than the Sutra Library of Great Light Peak, he did not intend to read all of them. He only chose one and cultivated it to perfection. Then, he would think of a way to obtain the other heart techniques and cultivate them to perfection. He realized that this path was extremely difficult and time-consuming. He had to race against time and could not afford to waste any time. When he returned to the courtyard, Su-mei was no longer there. She only came to clean up during meal times and spent the rest of her time cultivating martial arts. Although her aptitude was average, she was still far better than ordinary people. After all, Green Deer Cliff had an excellent environment and a foundation built with spirit herbs. Ordinary people could not compare to them. Even the weakest among them could become a grandmaster. Chu Li spent the next few days cultivating the spirit crane technique and realized that his progress was extremely slow. As he practiced the spirit crane technique, clear air slowly surrounded him. This clear air was the source of spiritual energy, which continuously nourished his body and circulated in a unique way. Through the circulation of this spiritual energy, he noticed that his turbid air gradually decreased and his body became lighter. This feeling was different from the lightness of the wind speed pill. The wind speed pill made the body lighter and faster, while the spirit crane technique made the body lighter and more flexible. He was slightly impatient. This kind of cultivation was really a waste of time. The next morning, he knocked on the door of Zhao Tianxing's courtyard. Zhao Tianxing was practicing his fist technique in the courtyard. When he saw Chu Li, he stopped and smiled. "You've seen the spirit crane technique. Junior brother Lu, you've cultivated it too, right? How do you feel? Too slow. Chu Li shook his head. Zhao Tianxing chuckled. It's better for you now. After all, your mind is strong. When we cultivated when we were young, it was extremely painful. Chu Li said, I want to know where the other 3 floors have gone, and if I can find them. We really can't come into contact with this. Zhao Tianxing shook his head and said, as far as I know, he was taken away by a disciple and never returned. He ended up wandering outside. As for which disciple, I'm not sure. It's a taboo in Green Deer Cliff. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Betrayed Green Deer Cliff? It's very likely, Zhao Tianxing sighed and said, he seems to be the only one who betrayed the sect, so no one mentioned him. That means it's still possible to find it, Chu Li said. Zhao Tianxing shook his head. We would have done it a long time ago if we could. Our sect isn't weak. It's just that we've been holding back all this while. We're not inferior to the Tempest Temple and the Titanium Temple. Chu Li asked, then who is it? No one can tell you. Zhao Tianxing said, it's better not to ask. It's impossible to find it anyway. As for perfecting the spirit crane technique, that's a pipe dream. You should cultivate the 6th level first. Chu Li nodded slowly. I want to go down the mountain. Zhao Tianxing was stunned. Chu Li smiled embarrassedly. I'm a little homesick. Theoretically, Inner Cliff disciples can't go down the mountain as they please. Among the young disciples, I'm the only one who has gone down the mountain once. The others haven't. Zhao Tianxing shook his head and said, but you're the youth champion now, so it's not a problem. Chu Li smiled. Can I really go down the mountain? Are you going back to Tide Listening Pavilion to tell them the good news? Zhao Tianxing asked. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Zhao Tianxing said, I'll ask them for you. Thank you, senior brother Zhao. You're welcome. Zhao Tianxing left in a hurry and returned after 15 minutes. He nodded with a smile. No problem. You can go down the mountain, but you must bring your waist tag with you. Don't lose it, or you won't be able to return to Green Deer Cliff. Okay. Chu Li smiled. Chu Li went back to meet He Shu and the others first before he left Green Deer Cliff. He sailed a small boat and finally returned to the seaside. Then, he returned to the High Duke's public house's Jade Guardian Island. Jade Guardian Island was bustling with activity. The sound of a goujing could be heard while maids were trimming dead branches. Winter had arrived. Although Jade Guardian Island was as warm as spring, the leaves had begun to wither and some of the flowers had also started to wither. Most of the flowers were still blooming. These were rare plants that only bloomed in winter. Winter was usually a bleak time, but the flowers made the atmosphere more lively and brighter. Following the sound of the goujing, Chu Li arrived at the stargazing tower. Xiao Qi was playing the goujing with her head lowered. Chu Li sat on an embroidered stool and admired her graceful figure. Her elegant movements were pleasing to the eyes and ears. The sound of the goujing suddenly rose and stopped. She turned to look at him. Chu Li smiled. Why are you in a bad mood? From the sound of the goujing, he could tell that Xiao Qi was unhappy about something. The people from Secret Guardians Hall are here. Xiao Qi scoffed. Chu Li frowned. They've gone too far. It seems like His Highness the Crown Prince wants me to make a fool of myself. How should we deal with it? Xiao Qi asked. You haven't been back for a while. Have you entered the inner cliff? They've entered. Chu Li smiled. It was very thrilling. We should just shut them out. Do they still dare to barge in? It looks like they're going to barge in. Xiao Qi frowned. I can't make up my mind. Leave it to me. Chu Li nodded. I'll go and meet them myself. Forget it. Xiao Qi shook her head. Once you show up, there'll be no turning back. That's good too. Just chase them away. Chu Li scoffed. If they want to barge and break their legs, won't they be too tough if their legs are broken? Shao Qi said. They're too arrogant. We should be tough. Chu Li said. Are they going to do something just because the High Duke's public house is arrogant? That's true. Shao Qi slowly nodded. She knew that once Chu Li quarreled with His Highness the Crown Prince, he would definitely vent his anger on the public house. Chu Li and the public house were one, and it was difficult to separate them. Chu Li said, Madam, can you help me find out if there's a disciple who betrayed Green Deer Cliff? A disciple of Green Deer Cliff won't betray, right? Shao Qi asked. Chu Li shook his head. There was one who betrayed Green Deer Cliff and took away the spirit crane technique of Green Deer Cliff. Yes, I'll ask Aunt for you. Shao Qi nodded. Chu Li said, Aunt might not know. I'll have to ask someone else. Let's try. Chapter 1199. Early in the morning, Chu Li let go of the soft and fragrant Shao Qi and got off the bed. With Xue Ling's help, he washed up and left the public house. He went to the main street of Chongming town and enjoyed the bustle of the morning. It was early in the morning when Chongming town was the busiest. People came and went, and the aroma of various snacks on the street mixed together, forming the unique morning smell of Chongming town. He had not been here for a long time. He had been busy and fighting nonstop. He could not calm down to experience daily life and enjoy the ordinary pleasures. He strolled along the street, avoiding the running children, and slowly arrived at the best restaurant in Chongming town, Sky Inn. He sat at a table near the window and called for the waiter to serve breakfast. He placed 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks on the table. The waiter obviously recognized Chu Li. He greeted him respectfully and quickly served the food. When Chu Li was halfway through his meal, unique footsteps could be heard. F.A. Yuan floated over, his gray cowl fluttering in the wind. His handsome bald head shone brightly, reflecting his gaze. He had the demeanor of an eminent monk. Chu Li looked at him. F.A. Yuan's advancement was very fast, and his cultivation level had increased by a large margin. He waved his hand, and F.A. Yuan came closer. He bowed with pressed palms. Amit Ba, Brother Chu. How was it? Did you find out? Chu Li bowed and pointed opposite him. F.A. Yuan sat opposite him, picked up his chopsticks, and started eating. It was a table full of vegetarian dishes. F.A. Yuan ate a mouthful of vegetables, put down his chopsticks, and nodded. I did not disappoint you. I found out. Chu Li was excited. Tell me, is there really a traitor? There will be traitors in every faction, except for the Titanium Temple. F.A. Yuan shook his head. But why do you want to investigate him? I'm curious. I also heard that this traitor seems to have taken some martial arts secret manuals from Green Deer Cliff, so I want to get them. Chu Li said. Then I advise you to stop thinking about it. F.A. Yuan smiled. This traitor is an enlightened master. Enlightened master? Chu Li was surprised. No wonder Green Deer Cliff kept it a secret and became a taboo. He was an enlightened master. Fa Yuan smiled. He was one of the last masters to become an enlightened master. From then on, the spirit beasts entered the 100,000 hills, and no one was able to cultivate the spirit beast technique to become an enlightened master. The path to becoming an enlightened master was completely changed. Chu Li frowned. So, it was 1,000 years ago. Exactly. Fa Yuan nodded. His surname is Zhu, and his full name is Zhu Liang. He has a stubborn temper, but he is brave and diligent. In the end, he became an enlightened master, but his whereabouts are unknown. As for the secret manual that you mentioned, I'm afraid it has completely disappeared. Not a single clue. Chu Li frowned. Is it possible that he hid the secret manual? Who knows? Fa Yuan shook his head and sighed. These enlightened masters are unpredictable. How can we understand them? Perhaps it has already been destroyed. Do you think he's still alive? Chu Li asked. Of course. An enlightened master's lifespan is extremely long, but he's definitely not in this realm. He must have gone to the outland, Fa Yuan said. Chu Li frowned. If that's the case, it's impossible to find him. Impossible. Fa Yuan shook his head. Forget it. Chu Li remained silent. When Fa Yuan saw his expression, he knew that he had not given up, but there was nothing he could do. What other clues do you have about him? Chu Li asked. His usual behavior, temperament, and so on. Tell me everything about him. Fa Yuan said. This Zhu Liang is very stubborn and arrogant. He has offended many people, but in the end, he became an enlightened master. No one can do anything to him. I only know that he has always been a loner and has no friends. Chu Li slowly nodded. Fa Yuan sighed. What secret manual did he steal? Chu Li said, I think it's the spirit crane technique. You want to cultivate the spirit crane technique? Fa Yuan was shocked. The spirit crane technique is not suitable for cultivation. The spiritual energy in this realm has dried up, and this type of spirit beast martial arts is no longer suitable for cultivation. The 4 elements are empty, and everything has its own life and death. The spirit beast martial arts are already perishable martial arts. Your current martial arts are 100 times stronger than the spirit crane technique. Chu Li shook his head. I'm just curious. Don't be too smart for your own good. Forget about the spirit crane technique. Fa Yuan advised. Chu Li said, I still want to give it a try. If I can't secretly learn it from Green Deer Cliff, it's not a bad idea to look for this enlightened master. I'll keep an eye on it, Fa Yuan said. Chu Li smiled. Thank you, thank you. The two of them chatted for a while more before Fa Yuan bid farewell and left in a carefree manner. After Chu Li finished his meal, he went down the Sky Inn and slowly walked back along the main street. When he was halfway there, 4 grandmasters suddenly jumped out from the side and rushed straight at Chu Li. They were so fast that their faces could not be seen clearly. They were ruthless and wanted to take his life. Chu Li frowned. Suddenly, a shadow appeared around him as if he had turned into a few people. Bam, 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 bam. With a series of muffled sounds, the 4 grandmasters flew out. 2 of them flew to the east, while the other 2 flew to the west. They flew more than 20 meters away and landed heavily on the bluestone road, making a loud thud. Chu Li then swung his hand, and 4 streams of light shot into the dantian of the 4 people. Ah! They screamed in pain, without the restraint of grandmasters. They clutched their abdomens and stared at Chu Li. Chu Li said, If you use force in Chongming Town, your martial arts will be crippled and you will be expelled from the town. No exceptions. His voice was calm and unhurried, like the rising tide spreading out slowly without missing a single detail. In the end, his voice spread throughout the entire Chongming town, showing off his amazing inner energy cultivation. Everyone who heard it was amazed. Chu Li continued, "Protectors of the House of High Dukes, throw them out of the town." "Yes," someone shouted from afar. There were many protectors of the House of High Dukes patrolling the main street. They all recognized Chu Li. When they heard his words, they quickly ran forward and picked up the 4 people on the ground and ran away. They even covered their mouths. Chu Li nodded in approval. It was obvious that these protectors knew who these 4 people were. Chu Li continued to walk forward. People made way for him and greeted him. Chu Li nodded at them, one by one. Chu Li was known to everyone in Chongming town. Even if they had never met him, they would know his name. Chu Li of the North and Du Feng of the South. After Du Feng assassinated King and escaped from the hands of the emperor, he disappeared without a trace. Du Feng became even more famous. Chu Li and Du Feng were equally famous. Everyone in Chongming town was proud of Chu Li, and they talked about him enthusiastically. Whenever Chu Li made any movements or news, they would hear about it. Everyone gathered together and discussed it. Chu Li became the head chief of the imperial residence of King and offended the emperor. He was sent to the imperial mausoleum and then returned to the fairy's capital. This series of events was extremely legendary in their eyes, and they loved to talk about it. Chu Li slowly walked back to the House of High Dukes. Xiao Qi was practicing her swordsmanship in the garden of the Jade Guardian Island. Chu Li stood at the side and watched. Xiao Qi's swordsmanship was elegant and very charming. He watched it as if it was a dance. After a while, Xiao Qi put away her sword. Her graceful body was full of energy, and her face was stunning. Chu Li smiled. "Don't worry about the people from the Secret Guardians Hall." Chapter 1200. Chu Li smiled. "I didn't expect them to be this stupid. They really haven't improved." The reason why he leisurely walked to the sky and without using God's limbs was to attract the attention of the people from the Secret Guardians Hall. Initially, he did not hold much hope. After all, the Secret Guardians Hall was not the same as before. They were not as arrogant as they used to be. After being taught a lesson by Sio Shi, they had completely lost their drive. He was just holding on to a sliver of hope that he could sense the aura of Chongming town at the same time. He did not expect that after Guyu took over as the commander, the Secret Guardians would revert to their old ways and return to their original arrogance. Perhaps it was because they had left Fairy's capital. They felt that no one would dare to provoke them. Hence, they became arrogant again and actually made a move against him. They wanted to teach him a lesson. This was exactly what he wanted. Without waiting for them to speak, he would immediately cripple their martial arts and throw them out of Chongming town. Even if they were to sue the emperor, he would still be in the right. For grandmasters were an important force no matter where they were placed. The fact that the Secret Guardians Hall had lost 4 grandmasters at once was enough to give Guyu a headache. Guyu wanted to make things difficult for him and teach the Crown Prince a lesson at the same time. This made him feel good. Lu Yurong would not let go of this opportunity. "What happened?" Xiao Qi asked worriedly. Chu Li told her everything that had happened. Xiao Qi shook her head and frowned. "We've really offended the Crown Prince this time." Chu Li smiled. "He doesn't want us to have an easy time. We can't just sit and wait. We have to teach him a lesson. I'm just afraid that he won't accept it and will continue to cause trouble." Xiao Qi frowned. "We'll deal with it when it comes." Chu Li smiled. "Don't worry. It won't be life-threatening. It's just a small fight. Your swordsmanship has improved a lot. It seems to have reached another level. It's heartless when you're deeply in love. Xiao Qi sighed. She was worried. If she continued to train like this, she really did not know what would happen to her. Chu Li said, "Then let's take it slow. But there's no need to suppress it too much. Let nature take its course." "Yes, that's the only way." Xiao Qi nodded. Bang! A celadone teacup was smashed to the ground. It was smashed into pieces, and the porcelain pieces scattered everywhere. In the main hall of the Crown Prince's residence, it was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Crown Prince Lung Jinghua paced back and forth angrily, with his hands behind his back. His bright yellow robe fluttered in the wind, but his face was tense and his eyes were burning with anger. The surrounding guards were as silent as cicadas in winter, not daring to move at all, as if they had been immobilized. A little maid at the door lifted the hem of her dress, walked down the stairs, and ran out. Lung Jinghua glared at the young man, who was standing with his head lowered. He sneered. "Guyu, how dare you?" The green-robed young man groaned in his heart. He raised his head and had a helpless expression on his face. "That's what Commander Gu said. I'm just following orders. I hope your highness will forgive me." Humph, Guyu is getting more and more impudent. Lung Jinghua smirked. He's becoming more and more incompetent. How could he cause such a mess over such a small matter? What a joke. Yes. The green-robed youth lowered his head and said, "Go back and tell him to come see me." Lung Jinghua scoffed. The green-robed youth quickly nodded. Lu Yurong, who was dressed in a white gown, gracefully stepped into the living room. After curtsying, she approached Lung Jinghua and asked, "Uncle-in-law, what happened?" "Guyu sent a secret guardian to Chongming town to assassinate Chu Li in the town. Chu Li crippled his martial arts." Lung Jinghua sneered and scoffed. "He's a good-for-nothing." Lu Yurong said, "Why did he attack Chu Li in Chongming town? Don't they know the rules of Chongming town?" She was also a member of the High Duke's public house. If anyone attacked in Green Mountain Town, they would be crippled of their martial arts and thrown out of the town. It was an iron law that every martial artist had to follow. There were no exceptions, or else they would lose their prestige. Lung Jinghua scoffed. They think that they don't have to follow the rules because they're secret guardians. They also look down on the High Duke's public house, thinking that the rules of the High Duke's public house can't restrict them. What's worse is that they think they can control Chu Li. Lu Yurong shook her head. Could it be a top-notch master? Of course it's a top-notch master. Lung Jinghua said, "But what's the use of a top-notch master in front of Chu Li? I heard that they didn't even have time to speak before their martial arts were crippled by Chu Li in one move. They didn't even have the chance to reveal their identity or say a word." Lu Yurong sighed softly. "It's a stupid thing to do. Could it be Commander Gu's order? Even if it's not his order, it's still his responsibility." Lung Jinghua took a deep breath and sat back in his armchair. The scribes and protectors around him sighed in relief and dared to move. They sighed to themselves. Miss Lu was indeed useful. Lu Yurong said, "Forget it. Since things have come to this, there's no point talking about it anymore. Let's call the secret guardians back. Don't go to the High Duke's public house. The public house isn't what it used to be. The secret guardians hall won't be able to get any benefits. Are we going to return with our tails between our legs?" The young man in green whispered. "The commander said he's not satisfied. Then we'll suffer even more." "Let's retreat while we can," Lu Yurong said. "Yes, I'll tell the commander," the young man in green replied. "Go, go." Lung Jinghua impatiently waved his hand and sent the young man away. Lung Jinghua sighed. "This Guyu, he doesn't even respect me now." Lu Yurong said, "Uncle-in-law, we still need to control the secret guardians hall or else we'll be tied down. The secret guardian's hall is our eyes and ears. Without them, we'll be blind and deaf. We'll be deceived by everyone. Lung Jinghua shook his head. Guyu only has eyes for the emperor. He doesn't listen to me at all. Then let's replace him. Lu Yurong said. Ever since he took office, he's been making stupid moves. He's not suitable to be the commander. Replace him? Lung Jinghua was stunned. He had never thought about this before. He only wanted to subdue Guyu and make him listen to him. Lu Yurong said, the secret guardian's hall is too important. If we can't replace him, we'll be harmed in the future. While the emperor doesn't have any other thoughts, we should try our best to take this position. Commander. Lung Jinghua remained silent. His expression was uncertain as he thought about the pros and cons. The secret guardians, Hall, had always been the emperor's private army. They were directly appointed by the emperor, and outsiders had no right to interfere. Hence, they had a high status and great influence. Their ears and eyes were especially sharp as they had infiltrated almost every imperial court official's home. If this power was not controlled by the emperor would not be at ease if it fell into the hands of others. If it were to be harmed, the damage would be too great. If he wanted to obtain this power, what would the emperor think? Would he think that he was too greedy or dissatisfied with the imperial court? Lu Yurong said, in less than 10 years, the emperor will probably let you do whatever you want. The secret guardian's hall is the most important force. With the secret guardian's hall, you'll be aware of the slightest movement in the imperial court. You'll be able to eliminate your opponents. Chapter 12:01. Lu Yurong smiled. Uncle-in-law, what do you think of me? You want to be the commander of the secret guardian's hall? Lung Jinghua was surprised. Lu Yurong nodded and said, Uncle-in-law, I really don't trust others. This position is too important. If they have the slightest bit of disloyalty or have other thoughts, they might ruin your plans, and I'm the best at this. That's true. Lung Jinghua nodded. Lu Yurong's talent in using spies was amazing. It was said that Chu Li was also an excellent spy, but he had never seen it for himself. To him, no one was better than her. Lu Yurong said, Guyu is muddle-headed and incompetent. He's narrow-minded and can't tolerate others. Look at how long he's been the commander, and he's already messed up the secret guardian's hall. Lung Jinghua scoffed. He was also very dissatisfied with the current state of the secret guardian's hall. It was far from what it used to be. It was as if they were two different groups of people. The current secret guardian's hall could not be expected to take on big responsibilities. If there was a big case, they might have to look for Chu Li. With their abilities and mutual restraints, it was impossible to solve a case. Lu Yurong said, even if you don't let me come, it's best to take down Guyu and replace him with a more suitable person. The emperor is meticulous, and he must have seen through Guyu's capabilities. He won't be too insistent. Uncle-in-law, you might be able to replace him. All right, I'll talk to my father. Lung Jinghua said, try to get you to be the commander. Lu Yurong said, as far as I know, the Mei-Er courtyard that Chu Li originally belonged to was only outwardly obedient to Guyu. They didn't listen to him at all. On the other hand, the people in the Mei-Er courtyard are all elites. Without the Mei-Er courtyard, the secret guardian's hall's strength has dropped significantly. Yes, I heard about it too. Lung Jinghua nodded. Lu Yurong smiled. If I become the commander, Mei-Er courtyard will be pulled over. That's great, Lung Jinghua said. Lu Yurong said, there's also Chu Li. Guyu can't defeat him. It's useless to give him more people. Sigh, this Chu Li. Lung Jinghua shook his head. He was now very disgusted with Chu Li. Chu Li was arrogant and domineering, but there was nothing he could do and he could not control him. After he hid in the public house, He was like a tortoise in its shell. There was nothing he could do. It was not easy to lure him out of his shell. Lu Yurong smiled and said, "Uncle-in-law, you don't have to worry. I will think of a way to deal with Chu Li and make him suffer." "Yes, you're the only one who can deal with him," Lung Jinghua said. Guyu sat in the main hall of the secret guardian's hall with a gloomy expression. The green-robed youth stood in front of him with his head lowered, not saying a word. Guyu sneered. "What a great crown prince. He's really awe-inspiring." Chu Li personally went out of town to welcome them and brought them to his island in the public house. "Centurion, I heard that he is solid evidence of you colluding with the Holy Church of Light," Yang Songwen said. As the sun set in the west, they sat in Chu Li's courtyard. The air was exceptionally fresh, and the sunset glow illuminated the courtyard with a hint of red. Chu Li laughed. "I colluded with a disciple of the Holy Church of Light." "Yes," Yang Zongwen nodded. Judging from Guyu's expression, "It's not fake." Chu Li frowned and pondered. Qin Jin said, "Centurion, tell us the truth. Is there such a thing?" Chu Li glared at him impatiently. Qin Jin chuckled. "Even if Centurion colluded with the Holy Church of Light, we won't say anything." Chu Li said, "Don't you know how deep my hatred for the Holy Church of Light is? Even if I wanted to collude, the Holy Church of Light would have to agree to it." "Then why does he have evidence?" Qin Jin said, "Guyu isn't shrewd enough. One look, and you can tell that the evidence is real." Chu Li waved his hand. "I'd like to see what evidence he has." Chu Li frowned worriedly. Guyu seemed to be fooled by him, as if he was an idiot. In fact, he was not stupid at all. In fact, he was very clever. The evidence was definitely not fake. However, what evidence did Chu Li and the Holy Church of Light have that made him so sure? After thinking about it, he thought of Fu Mengshan. Only 3 people knew that he went undercover in the Holy Church of Light. He trusted Su Huanda, but not Fu Mengshan. If someone leaked the secret, it could only be Fu Mengshan. He could not sit still when he thought about it. If his identity was exposed, all his previous efforts would go to waste. Moreover, it would be a huge problem. "Centurion, if you have something to do, you should go ahead and do it. Let's take a break and go to the town tomorrow," Qin Jin said. Chu Li nodded. "All right, you don't have to be so polite since you're here. I have something to take a look at first." "Yes." Everyone fist saluted. Chapter 12:02. P.S. The internet was cut off. I was in the countryside, and I was in a hurry to write. I didn't have time to go to the city to find internet, so I could only write first. I'm really sorry. After leaving the small courtyard, he suddenly disappeared and reappeared in the adjacent city of the Imperial Mausoleum. At this moment, he had changed into another appearance. He was a middle-aged man with a haggard face and a skinny figure. He was only at the level of an innate expert. His eyes were bright, and he wouldn't be too conspicuous in the crowd, nor would he be too ordinary. He walked slowly to Su Huanda's courtyard and gently knocked on the door. As soon as he arrived at adjacent town, he could already see Su Huanda's small courtyard. Everything within a 5-kilometer radius appeared in his mind. His and Xiao Qi's courtyard was still empty and unoccupied, but it was very clean. It was obvious that it was frequently cleaned. Although he was no longer in adjacent town, he still left some forces here under Xiao Qi's control. They were incorporated into the High Duke's public house, so any news would reach Xiao Qi at any time. Su Huanda was practicing his swordsmanship when he heard the knock on the door. He called out, "Come in." When Chu Li entered Su Huanda's door, he returned to his original appearance. He gave a fist salute and smiled. "Commander Su." "Chu Li?" Su Huanda was surprised. He hurriedly came forward and cupped his fists. Why are you here? I have something to ask, Chu Li said. The two of them sat at the stone table in the courtyard. Chu Li looked around and smiled. Commander, we should move to another courtyard. This place is too cramped. It's okay. I'm used to it. Su Huanda shook his head and smiled. It's fine as long as we have a place to stay. There's no need to be so particular about it. Chu Li, how did you find the time to come here? Although he was an adjacent town and was isolated from the outside world, he knew that once Chu Li left adjacent town, he would be like a dragon returning to the sea. He would not be idle at all. Chu Li was a busy man. Since it was rare for him to return to adjacent town, something big must have happened. I'm looking for Commander Fu, Chu Li said. Why can't I see him? Could he have entered the inner mausoleum? Old Fu. Su Huanda frowned, and his face darkened. Chu Li immediately knew that something was wrong. He frowned and asked, Did something happen to Commander Fu? Old Fu is dead. Su Huanda sighed and shook his head. He was stabbed to death in his own courtyard. When did this happen? Chu Li's expression changed. Su Huanda sighed. It's been half a month. Chu Li frowned. If Xiao Qi received the news, she would probably tell him. Even though he no longer had any relationship with Fu Mengshan, they were still related to each other. They were not strangers. It seemed that the situation in adjacent town had changed. Su Huanda said, Old Fu is already prepared for this. It's inevitable. The Emperor? Chu Li scoffed. Su Huanda nodded slowly. If the Emperor still wants to use Old Fu, he will show mercy. If he doesn't want to use him anymore, then he won't let him live. Su Huanda said plainly, Old Fu knows too much that he shouldn't. Is it really the Emperor? Chu Li frowned. It can't be an impostor, right? Hard to say. Su Huanda shook his head. He's already dead. He's no longer a commander, and he's just a sinner. So what if he's dead? He won't be able to cause any trouble, and no one will investigate this matter. Chu Li scoffed. I'd like to check it out. Elder Fu has already been laid to rest. It's not a good idea to disturb him, Su Huanda said. Let's just forget about it. He has already been reincarnated, so why bother with him? Chu Li did not say anything. Su Huanda suddenly came to a realization. He shook his head and laughed. He had been living comfortably here for so long that he became a little slow. Chu Li was a smart person. Why would he look for Fu Mengshan for no reason? It must be something serious. But if you really want to know, there's no harm in checking it out, Su Huanda said. I also want to know if it's really the Emperor. Chu Li looked up at him and shook his head with a smile. Commander Su, you've changed. Su Huanda smiled. Without the pressure of duty, I'm not that insensible. Oh, right. Why are you looking for Old Fu? I heard that Guyu found concrete evidence that I'm colluding with the Holy Church of Light. Chu Li's face darkened. Su Huanda frowned. He still won't let you go? This guy doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Su Huanda frowned. Chu Li said, he doesn't have any other skills, but he's extremely tenacious. He suffered losses and was taught a lesson, but he still came back time and time again. He has some redeeming qualities. How is that possible? Su Huanda frowned. Did you really collude with the Holy Church of Light? What do you think? Chu Li scoffed. You suspect that the spy was leaked? Su Huanda's expression changed. Chu Li slowly nodded. Only the three of us know about this. Commander Su, you won't leak it, but I can't say for sure about Commander Fu. It's very likely that Guyu dug out something from Commander Fu. You suspect that Guyu assassinated Commander Fu. If Guyu did it, it would be the same as the Emperor doing it. No one would be able to tell that he was abusing his official position for personal gain. It's even harder to tell if Commander Fu was involved. I'm afraid. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. A person like Fu Mengshan would grasp at any straw in desperation. Even if he could not escape in the end, he might not want others to have an easy time. He might leak the fact that he had disguised himself as Zhao De and infiltrated the Holy Church of Light to find a scapegoat. Fu Mengshan and Su Huanda were completely different people. It was very possible that they would do such a thing. Su Huanda frowned. That's possible. What should we do? This was the first time Chu Li infiltrated the Holy Church of Light. If this was leaked, not only would all his previous efforts be wasted, he would also implicate more people. Even if Chu Li was in the Holy Church of Light, it was impossible that he did not have any friends. Moreover, he was already an official with a group of loyal subordinates. If Chu Li's identity was leaked, these people would not end up well. Chu Li shook his head. I hope that Commander Fu didn't tell Gu Yu. I hope that Commander Fu didn't leak this out. Why don't I test Gu Yu first? Su Huanda suggested. Chu Li quickly waved his hand. It's better that you don't get involved in this. Su Huanda said, this isn't a small matter. Moreover, Gu Yu is a despicable person who doesn't see the big picture. If you don't listen to him, he'll definitely spread the news. Chu Li said, I have my ways. Do you really have a way? Su Huanda frowned. Chu Li slowly said, this matter ends here. I've never been here, and you've never seen me. Understood. Su Huanda slowly nodded and hesitated for a moment. Don't take the risk. Gu Yu can't be killed. After all, he had been Chu Li's superior before. He had a deep understanding of Chu Li's fearlessness and audacity. He was afraid that Chu Li would use the simplest method to kill Gu Yu. That would be troublesome. After all, Gu Yu was the Emperor's confidant and the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. It would be a huge joke if the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall was killed. Chu Li smiled. Su Huanda looked at him and sighed helplessly. He did not try to persuade him, as it was useless. Chu Li waved his hand and suddenly disappeared. He appeared in the garden of the Jade Guardian Island. He sat by the stone table and watched Shao Qi practice her swordsmanship. After a while, Shao Qi stopped practicing and sat next to him. She looked at him and noticed that he had something on his mind. What's wrong? Do you know that Fu Mengshan was assassinated? Shao Qi frowned. When did this happen? Half a month ago. Chu Li shook his head. It seems like we can't control adjacent town anymore. I'll look into it later. Shao Qi said, how could that be? The Emperor? Chu Li sighed. Most likely. Chapter 12:03. The backyard of the Crown Prince's residence, the setting sun illuminated the back garden with a bright red glow, adding a touch of tenderness and beauty. Lu Yurong was sitting in a small courtyard in the backyard, reading a scroll. Her expression was calm and peaceful. The 9 girls were scattered around her, busy with their own tasks. Some watered the flowers, some cut the grass, some practiced martial arts, and some were reading. They surrounded her in the middle, forming a formation. Lung Jinghua strode to the backyard, entered the gazebo, and sat opposite her. Lu Yurong was dressed in white. She slowly put down her book and looked at Lung Jinghua. Uncle-in-law, is there anything urgent? Gu Yu is dead, Lung Jinghua said in a deep voice. He took out a handkerchief to wipe the sweat off his forehead. Normally, a master like him would not sweat even if he was in a hurry. However, Lung Jinghua was drenched in sweat, as if he had run all the way here. Lu Yurong was stunned and asked in surprise, Dead? I heard he was assassinated by a disciple from the Holy Church of Light. Lung Jinghua shook his head. They're searching the entire city to find this disciple from the Holy Church of Light. Lu Yurong frowned. How did he die so easily? His martial arts are weak. Lung Jinghua said, It's not reliable to rely on the protectors. But the Holy Church of Light has gone too far. How dare they assassinate the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. Lu Yurong said, "Of course, the Holy Church of Light is bold. They don't respect the great Ji dynasty at all. They won't be able to catch the murderer. The disciples of the Holy Church of Light have a secret technique that can conceal their martial arts." Sigh, "This is so embarrassing." Lung Jinghua scoffed. D***MN Guyu. Lu Yurong asked, "Can he be saved?" "He can't be saved." Lung Jinghua shook his head. "This person is ruthless. He shattered his brain. He can't be saved even with spirit medicine. Yurong, do you really want to be the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall?" "I can try." Lu Yurong said, "I won't have to worry about being assassinated if I'm the commander." Lung Jinghua nodded. Lu Yurong's martial arts was top-notch among the younger generation. Even the top-notch senior masters would not be able to kill her, as she would always have a chance to escape. Lung Jinghua pondered and said, "This isn't a good time. Father must be furious now. Guyu hasn't accomplished anything since he took office. He should have died long ago." Lu Yurong shook her head. "As for the emperor's anger, it's useless. He won't go against the Holy Church of Light." Lung Jinghua frowned. "I'll try." He rose and hurried away. Lu Yurong paced around thoughtfully. Why did the Holy Church of Light want to assassinate Guyu? As the Holy Church of Light, they should be eager for someone like Guyu to remain as the Secret Guardians Hall's commander. The more useless Guyu was, the more advantageous it would be for the Holy Church of Light. Why did they have to assassinate Guyu? She frowned and remained silent, feeling that something was not quite right. After a while, she had a flash of inspiration and a smile appeared on her face. A disciple of the Holy Church of Light might not be assassinated by the Holy Church of Light. If someone else were to imitate a disciple of the Holy Church of Light, who would know if it was real or fake? In any case, the murderer had not been caught. She suddenly remembered a piece of news. Guyu said that he had found evidence of Chu Li colluding with the Holy Church of Light and had sent someone to invite Chu Li back to confront him. The Holy Church of Light. Chu Li. A smile suddenly appeared on her face. Then she glided away. Chu Li was cultivating on Jade Guardian Island. He was diligently cultivating the great heaven-deriving sword and Philip Swift thunder. Both martial arts were very important to him. He suddenly raised his eyebrows and disappeared from Jade Guardian Island in a flash. Skyen was very lively. The first floor was the busiest, the second floor had cubicles, and the third floor was a single room. Lu Yurong was wearing a white gown and a white veil. She sat in a single room on the third floor of Sky Inn by the window. There was no one else beside her, and she was eating elegantly. Chu Li suddenly appeared in the room and sat opposite her. Lu Yurong took off her white veil and revealed her charming face. She looked at him with a faint smile. Chu Li said, "Welcome, what brings you here?" "Chu Li, you killed Guyu, didn't you?" Lu Yurong asked. Chu Li could not help but laugh. "I wanted to do that. Wasn't I waiting for you to kick him out of the Secret Guardians Hall?" "Guyu is dead. You're playing dumb." Lu Yurong stared at him. Her watery eyes penetrated every pore, as if she was trying to drill into his heart. Chu Li said snappily, "I'm happy. How did he die?" "I heard that he was assassinated by a disciple of the Holy Church of Light." Lu Yurong smiled. "I'm curious. Why would a disciple of the Holy Church of Light want to kill him? He's such a muddle-headed guy. They would love for him to be the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall." Chu Li said, "Although Guyu is muddle-headed, he has been especially hard on the Holy Church of Light ever since he took the position. It's understandable that he wants to kill Guyu." I think there's a problem." Lu Yurong shook her head. "The one who wants to kill Guyu the most isn't the Holy Church of Light. It's you, Chu Li said, I want to kill him, but I'm not in a hurry. I believe you have a way to get him away. When he's no longer a commander, it won't be so troublesome to kill him then. I'll just get rid of him silently. What if something forces you to do it? Lu Yurong smiled. I heard that Guyu has evidence of you colluding with the Holy Church of Light. Chu Li laughed. Where did you hear such a ridiculous rumor? It's true, Lu Yurong said. In short, there's a high chance that Guyu died in your hands. Chu Li sighed. If the Emperor hears this, he'll definitely kill me. It's good that you know. Lu Yurong smiled. She was pleased and pleased when she saw Chu Li's expression. Chu Li shook his head. You think it's me, but I think it's you. Me? Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. Tell me, why do I want to kill him? First, for the position of commander. Chu Li said, I know you've been eyeing the position of commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. He's an eyesore there, so you can't wait and want to get rid of him as soon as possible. Second, Chu Li smiled and waved his hand to stop her from talking. He continued, It's also our agreement. I won't go so far as to kill him just because of the agreement. Lu Yurong scoffed. There are many ways to get rid of him, but killing him is the stupidest way. Chu Li said, Sometimes the stupidest way is the most unexpected, especially for someone as smart as you. You're putting the blame on me. Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu Li shook his head. This is my honest opinion. I'm sure many people will think the same, such as His Highness the Crown Prince or the Emperor. Lu Yurong's expression changed. Chu Li said, Will His Highness the Crown Prince mention to the Emperor that you'll be the commander? The Emperor is a suspicious person. Will he suspect that you're the culprit? Lu Yurong frowned. Chu Li smiled. Looks like His Highness the Crown Prince has already mentioned it to the Emperor. Hee, I'm afraid you won't be the commander anymore. Are you happy? Lu Yurong scoffed. What good will it do to you if I don't become the commander? Chu Li smiled. There's nothing good about that, but if you become the commander, we can work together. Chapter 1204. Will the Emperor be so heartless? Xiao Qi frowned. Although she was born in the public house, she knew that the most ruthless imperial family was the Emperor's. The Emperor's mind was usually cold, and he prioritized his own interests over everything else. He regarded human lives as nothing. However, Fu Mengshan was not an ordinary courtier. He was the Emperor's confidant, and he was loyal to the Emperor. Killing him just like that was unacceptable. Who would still be loyal to the Emperor? Chu Li said, Accompanying the Emperor is like accompanying a tiger. The Emperor has always been like this. There's no difference. Xiao Qi sighed. The public house could only be loyal to the Emperor. This was the ancestral teaching and could not be changed. However, such a cold-blooded and heartless Emperor did not deserve loyalty. Chu Li said, I'm afraid that the fact that I'm hiding in the Holy Church of Light will be leaked as well. You want to kill Guyu? It's too risky. Xiao Qi shook her head. Guyu isn't that easy to kill, and the consequences are too severe. She knew that Chu Li would definitely kill Guyu. She could guess that Guyu must have been protected by a top-notch master who was not inferior to Chu Li. Otherwise, he would have been assassinated a long time ago. There were many top-notch masters in the imperial house who almost never appeared in front of the public. They came from the inner mausoleum. If such a master protected Guyu, it would be troublesome if the assassination failed. Chu Li said, He'll definitely use this as a threat, and he'll definitely spread the news. It's better to strike first. There's no other way. Xiao Qi looked at him and sighed helplessly. She did not say anything more. Chu Li smiled. If we really can't do it, there's still the Spirit Crane's Peak. We can just hide there. All right. Xiao Qi smiled. She would not object to Chu Li's decision, but it was indeed dangerous. However, which of his matters was not dangerous? He had always managed to turn misfortune into fortune. If worst came to worst, he still had God's limbs and Spirit Crane's Peak. Chu Li suddenly disappeared. Guyu had been reading dossiers in the main hall of the Secret Guardian's hall for the entire morning. The more he read, the more he felt a headache. Thus, he put down the dossiers and slowly walked out of the Secret Guardian's hall. He left the main street and walked to a side street. He wanted to reward himself for his hard work, so he went into a small restaurant, sat in front of a table, and sighed. He realized that he was not suited to be a commander. It was too boring. In the eyes of others, it was exciting to have a high position and power, but in fact, he rarely experienced the thrill of power. Instead, he felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. He felt that every secret guardian in the residence was secretly laughing at him. A new broom sweeps clean. Chu Li had ruthlessly extinguished his prestige and caused him to be disgraced. Moreover, the May-Air courtyard had been openly complying with him, but secretly opposing him. This had caused his prestige to plummet even further. His ability to control the Secret Guardian's hall had rapidly declined. Without Chen Donghai's help, he would not have been able to command the Secret Guardians at all. Just thinking about how he was not as good as Chen Donghai, who had been crippled of his martial arts, infuriated him. However, this kind of time was gone forever. He had Chu Li's lifeblood in his hands. He had never thought that when he was helping the emperor to get rid of Fu Mengshan, he would unintentionally gain something. Fu Mengshan actually said something shocking before he died, that Chu Li had already infiltrated the Holy Church of Light. This was a great merit, but he didn't report it to the emperor. If he reported it himself, then it would be his merit. However, as soon as this thought flashed through his mind, he immediately extinguished it. If it was someone else, he would have directly reported it to the emperor and received this merit before anything else. However, Chu Li was different. He felt that this was a chance to overthrow Chu Li. As long as he told Chu Li would have to listen to him obediently. When that time came, he could do whatever he wanted to do with him. Thinking of this, he became excited. He felt that the sun was exceptionally bright, and the weather today was exceptionally refreshing. His body felt light. The small restaurant that he frequented looked very ordinary, but they cooked good fish, which suited his taste. He had been here several times, and every time he ate to his heart's content. More importantly, the lady boss here was a charming lady. Every time he ate, he would admire her lithe figure, and his appetite would be particularly good. As he thought about it, he had already found out about the origins of this restaurant. The male owner of the restaurant was a good cook. His ancestor was a chef from the imperial house. Although it had been 4 generations, the skill of cooking fish was still passed down. After going through 4 generations, the family's connections had all dissipated, so they could only stay in such a quiet place and open a small restaurant. As the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall, it was a piece of cake for him to take care of this family. However, he enjoyed the current stage the most. He wanted to succeed, but he did not. Once he succeeded, it would be boring. 2 gray-robed elders sat not far from his seat. They seemed to have nothing to do with him. He was staring at the young lady who was serving the dishes and greeted her with a smile. The lady boss looked at him with a faint smile. At this time, an elder in green slowly walked into the restaurant and sat at the table next to Guyu. He waved his hand to ask the lady boss to come over. Then he casually ordered 2 dishes and looked at Guyu. Guyu glanced at him and then looked away. He was just an ordinary old man who did not know martial arts. He could not be bothered with him. The two gray-robed elders behind Guyu stared at the elder in green for a while. Finally, they slowly turned their heads to admire the lady boss's enchanting figure. It was indeed a great enjoyment. Bang! Suddenly, there was a muffled sound. The elder in green had punched Guyu's back. Guyu flew into the air. The elder in green appeared behind him in a flash and punched the back of his head again. This time, his brain was smashed. Even with a spirit medicine like the spirit blessing pill, he would still be an idiot and would not wake up. No! The two gray-robed elders roared and rushed over. The elder in green sent Guyu flying with another punch. Then he jumped out of the window and disappeared in the blink of an eye. One of the gray-robed elders went to catch Guyu while the other chased after him. By the time he chased out of the restaurant, he had already lost sight of the green-robed old man. He hurriedly leaped onto the roof and looked down. The streets were bustling with people and carriages, so he couldn't see the green-robed old man's figure at all. The gray-robed elder howled at the sky. He took something out and threw it into the air. Bang! An explosion was heard in the sky. Then, a ball of flame condensed in the sky. When this signal was heard, the city gates would be closed. The commander of the Secret Guardians Hall was an important official. How could he be assassinated so easily? As long as the city gates were closed, he would be found after a slow search. The elder in green suddenly disappeared from the city and appeared on the High Duke's public house's Jade Guardian Island. Chu Li's real face had been restored. Xiao Qi was sitting in the garden reading. When she saw him, she looked at him thoughtfully. Chu Li smiled. It's a success. That easy? He thought no one would dare to assassinate him. Chu Li shook his head. He only brought 2 protectors. Although they're top-notch masters, they weren't that vigilant. No one could recognize you, right? I used the Divine Light Fist. Chu Li smiled. Chapter 12:05. Chu Li smiled and said, Moreover, I can also lend you a hand and help you sit in that position. Lu Yurong frowned at him. How are you going to help me? What if I recommend myself to be the commander now? What do you think? Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong replied, How can the emperor agree? Chu Li replied, I'm actually very suitable. Everything else aside, just my ability to solve cases is enough for me to be the commander, right? If I take over the Secret Guardians Hall, no place in the fairies' capital can escape from the Secret Guardians Hall's control. That's true. Lu Yurong nodded. Lu Yurong knew that she was good at planning and strategizing. However, Chu Li was not only good at planning and strategizing, but he was also very perceptive. No case could escape his detection. If he really took over the Secret Guardians Hall, the Secret Guardians Hall would have astonishing development. You're biased towards King Ping. Lu Yurong shook her head. The emperor won't agree. Then I can use the power of the imperial court. Chu Li smiled. I'm sure many courtiers want me to take the commander's position. Chu Li had always been a straightforward person, especially when he went against the emperor and was banished to the imperial mausoleum, which made people gasp in admiration and caused his reputation to soar. If he were to take over the Secret Guardians Hall, the courtiers would no longer have to worry about being wrongly accused. Lu Yurong remained silent. Chu Li smiled. What do you think? Lu Yurong scoffed. No matter how loud the courtiers are, it depends on whether the emperor listens to them. You have no hope of taking that position. Chu Li replied, That's not necessarily true. Heroes are created by circumstances. All right, if I become the commander, we can work together. Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu Li smiled in satisfaction. If you become the commander, you can't betray my people. You can't hide the news from each other. You're greedy, Lu Yurong scoffed. How is that possible? Chu Li replied, May Air Courtyard will listen to you. Lu Yurong frowned. If I'm the commander, they should listen to me. Chu Li smiled without saying a word. Lu Yurong scoffed. All right, what else? Chu Li replied, Nothing else. I just got some news. But let's make this clear. If you purposely hide anything from me, our collaboration will be over. No problem. Lu Yurong nodded. I won't go so far as to do such a thing. That's good. Just wait for the commander's throne, Chu Li said with a smile. Lu Yurong pursed her lips and chuckled. You talk big. Don't be happy for nothing in the end. You'll have to compensate me. Don't worry, Chu Li said. Lu Yurong tilted her head and said, I'm even more certain now that you killed him. Chu Li replied, You're imagining things. By the way, how's the investigation on Zhu Liang going? Lu Yurong stopped smiling and said seriously, He's not famous, so it's hard to find him. However, I found some clues. It seems that he's hiding in Zheng Dynasty. Which part of the Zheng Dynasty? Chu Li quickly asked. Lu Yurong thought for a moment. I'm not sure if it's accurate, but it seems to be at Ascending Dragon Mountain. Chu Li raised his eyebrows as he was secretly surprised. It couldn't be such a coincidence, right? Heavenly King Palm was hidden in the Ascending Dragon Mountain, and Zhu Liang was also hiding in the Ascending Dragon Mountain. If that was really the case, it was very likely that this Ascending Dragon Mountain had some profound secrets that he did not understand. It seemed that he would have to make another trip to Ascending Dragon Mountain. Why are you asking about Zhu Liang? Lu Yurong was puzzled. He's a person from more than 1,000 years ago. Although he's an enlightened master, he should have ascended to the Grand Master's boundary long ago. What connection do you have with him? Chu Li said, I found out that Zhu Liang was a disciple of Green Deer Cliff, but he later betrayed the sect. Lu Yurong was shocked. She really did not know about this. She spent a lot of effort to look through the books in the Crown Prince's residence. She even used the Crown Prince's connections to enter the Imperial Library. After searching for a long time, she finally found information about Zhu Liang. It was found in an anecdote. However, there was no record of him being a traitor of Green Deer Cliff. It seemed that very few people knew about his identity back then. It made sense when she thought about it. Green Deer Cliff would not make it public, and Zhu Liang would not make it public either. Hence, it was difficult for others to know about it. The disciples of Green Deer Cliff had always been secretive. How did you know? Lu Yurong asked. Fa Yuan helped me. Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong said, Why did you go through so much trouble to find out about this person? To obtain the martial arts of Green Deer Cliff? I'm a little interested. Chu Li replied. Lu Yurong shook her head. I advise you to give up. It's impossible for him to keep the martial arts of Green Deer Cliff. Even if he did, it would have decayed long ago. It's been more than 1,000 years. Chu Li smiled. I'm just curious. All right, we'll go our separate ways then. He got up and fist saluted before turning to leave. Lu Yurong scoffed. What's the hurry? Aren't you going to eat first? Chu Li said, I'll go back and eat. Xiao Qi is really good at taming her husband. Lu Yurong smiled faintly. Chu Li glared at her before turning to leave. When Lu Yurong returned to the Crown Prince's residence, it was already the next morning. She went straight to the backyard to cultivate. When Lung Jinghua slowly walked into the backyard, Lu Yurong knew that things were not going well. Yurong, I'm afraid things won't go as you wish. Lung Jinghua was dressed in a luxurious robe. He sighed and sat in the gazebo. He shook his head at Lu Yurong, who was holding a sword. Father is quite angry. He's a little suspicious of you. Lu Yurong said, No matter how suspicious he is, it shouldn't be me. If it wasn't for that, I'm afraid Father would have already chosen you. Lung Jinghua shook his head. Fortunately, you're from the High Duke's public house. No matter how much trouble the High Duke's public house caused, their loyalty was guaranteed. Therefore, no matter how angry the emperor was, he would not want to kill them. He would only ignore them and give them the cold shoulder. Lu Yurong asked, "Then who's going to be the commander?" Father is still hesitating. Lung Jinghua said. Lu Yurong nodded thoughtfully. Lung Jinghua said, "Yurong, let's forget about it this time. Maybe next time, there'll be a chance. If it doesn't work out, I'll promise you after 10 years. Once I'm crowned, I'll make you the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall." "Thank you, uncle-in-law." Lu Yurong smiled. "But after you're crowned, I won't be the commander anymore." Lung Jinghua understood what she meant. She wanted to be the commander because she was worried that King Ping and the others would overthrow him. Based on her personality, once she was crowned, she would retire and return to the High Duke's public house. Lu Yurong asked, "Did you find the murderer? Where can we find him?" Lung Jinghua shook his head. "The Holy Church of Light is the most troublesome. If he hides in the crowd, it's impossible to find him." Lu Yurong pondered. "Don't the two protectors recognize him? With just the two of them, even if they watch him all day long, how many people can they see?" Lung Jinghua sighed. "The most important thing is to be on guard. This is too demoralizing." Lu Yurong said, "If anyone else dares to be the commander, the Holy Church of Light will probably try to assassinate them. There'll be people fighting for it." Lung Jinghua shook his head. Lu Yurong smiled. The position was indeed very tempting. It was the emperor's confidant. Once they took the position, they only needed to answer to the emperor. There would be no one above them, and they would only be under one person. It was really impressive. While the two were talking, they suddenly heard hurried footsteps. Chapter 12:06. Lung Jinghua and Lu Yurong stood up at the same time. "What?" Lung Jinghua screamed. The green-robed scribe whispered, "It's news from the imperial house." "Impossible." Lung Jinghua slammed the stone table and yelled, "It can't be him." Lu Yurong calmed down and asked, "Are you sure it's him?" "Not yet." The green-robed guard said in a low voice, "The emperor is hesitating. He has this thought." I understand. You may leave." Lu Yurong waved her hand. The green-robed guard quietly retreated out of the pavilion, left the back garden, and disappeared. Lu Yurong looked at the furious Lung Jinghua and said gently, "Uncle-in-law, don't panic. The emperor hasn't made up his mind yet." "What does father mean?" Lung Jinghua took a deep breath and sat down slowly. "Everyone knows that Chu Li is loyal to King Ping, but father wants to make him the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall." "What is he trying to do?" Lu Yurong frowned and was puzzled. Logically, the emperor would not use the art of balance on the crown prince because it was unnecessary. As an enlightened master, he was not afraid that the crown prince would make him a mere figurehead. Besides, it was only for 10 years. Chu Li offended the emperor because he wanted to defend King Ping. He was sent to the imperial mausoleum and almost never made it back. Everyone knew that Chu Li was on King Ping's side. If he became the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall, it would not benefit the crown prince at all. The news from the palace would not be fake. They would not spread the news if they were not confident. She pondered for a while and looked up. "Uncle-in-law, the emperor might be testing Chu Li. Why would he?" Lung Jinghua frowned. "Father doesn't need to test him." Lu Yurong said, "Who knows what the emperor is thinking? But no matter what, he won't let Chu Li take over the Secret Guardians Hall." Now that she had sobered up, she suppressed her worries. Chu Li was not the emperor's confidant. Even if the emperor was an enlightened master and fearless, he would not let Chu Li take over the secret guardians' hall. It was equivalent to the secret guardians' hall losing their eyes and ears. Lung Jinghua sighed. The last time I was banished to the imperial mausoleum, it was actually father who punished me too harshly, and I've let fourth brother down as well. This time, he might be making it up to me. No, I have to go to the palace to see father. Lu Yurong shook her head and smiled. If uncle-in-law enters the palace, I'm afraid I really have no hope. Are we just going to watch it happen? Lung Jinghua was unwilling to give up. Lu Yurong nodded. I'm afraid the emperor also wants to see Chu Li's background. I'd love to see it too. Lung Jinghua scoffed. By noon, the news that Chu Li was going to take over the secret guardians' hall had spread, and everyone knew about it. After that, everyone knew the specifics of the situation. It was said that Princess and personally went to the palace to meet the emperor and explained the benefits of Chu Li taking over the secret guardians' hall. He was brimming with talent and was fair in his conduct. Everyone respected him, and the secret guardians' hall would change from the gloomy atmosphere of the past to become dignified and imposing, forming an effective deterrent. After the emperor heard it, he felt that it was reasonable and said that he needed to consider it and could be used as a backup. After that, he would consider other candidates and make another decision. However, everyone felt that Chu Li was the most confident in getting the position of commander among all the candidates. Firstly, he was already a centurion of the secret guardians' hall, so he was familiar with the process. Secondly, he was so talented that no one could compare to him. The others had not been tested, so they could not be sure if they were more suitable than him. Therefore, everyone confidently said that Chu Li would definitely become the new commander of the secret guardians' hall. Chu Li was not in Fairy's capital, but he hurried back from the public house the next morning and went straight to the palace to meet the emperor. Imperial House, Chong, when Hall the morning air, was exceptionally cold. It was already winter, so Chongwen Hall was extremely spacious but warm. Once one stepped in, one would be enveloped by the hot air, and one would want to take off all their clothes. The emperor, Lung Wufeng, was sitting behind the dragon table. He was dressed in a bright yellow robe and was carefully sizing Chu Li up. He was thin and short and looked like an ordinary rich man. There was not a trace of sharpness in him, and he did not look like a master. Only Chu Li had experienced how terrifying he looked when he transformed into an enlightened master. Chu Li entered with a cold air and fist saluted. "Greetings, Your Majesty. You came back in such a hurry. Did you hear the news?" Lung Wufeng put down the memorial and asked lazily. Chu Li replied, "Yes. How is it? Please forgive me, Your Majesty. I can't be the commander." Chu Li shook his head. "Oh." Lung Wufeng scoffed. "Princess and praised you to the skies." Chu Li said, "Princess meant well. She felt that King Anne's imperial residence has lost its support and needs a sufficient official position to support it so that it won't be bullied." I understand," Lung Wufeng said. "That's why I didn't say much. Although she doesn't know martial arts, she's very knowledgeable. What she said makes sense, so I have nothing to say." He was very satisfied with this daughter-in-law of his. She was far-sighted, intelligent, powerful, and righteous. Other princesses could not be compared to her. Not only was she loved by the empress, but he liked her too. It was a pity that King An was unlucky and died young, or he would have been a good wife. After she entered the palace and met him, she analyzed one by one, taking care of public and private affairs, leaving him speechless. He could not refute or deny it, so he could only delay it. He also wanted to take the opportunity to see what Chu Li and King Ping were thinking. Chu Li said, "Even if there are many reasons, I still can't take over the secret guardian's hall. It's good that you understand." Lung Wufeng nodded. He was quite satisfied that Chu Li knew when to advance and when to retreat. Chu Li said, "In the eyes of the emperor and the courtiers, I'm King Ping's man. If I take over the secret guardian's hall, His Highness the Crown Prince will lose face. Everyone will also wonder about the emperor's attitude toward His Highness the Crown Prince." Lung Wufeng nodded slowly. Chu Li said, "If that's the case, I'd like to recommend someone." "Who?" Lung Wufeng asked. "Lu Yurong." Chu Li said, "The young lady of the Run public house. She's loyal and capable. She's not inferior to men. I've been her rival, and we've fought countless times without a clear winner." "It's rare that you think of her." Lung Wufeng shook his head. "But she's a woman after all. She's more powerful than men." Chu Li chuckled. "If everyone thinks this way and underestimates her, Lu Yurong will soon make them realize how wrong they are. If she takes over the secret guardian's hall, won't the Li dynasty laugh at us for having no one?" Lung Wufeng said. Chu Li said, "The Li dynasty's Holy Church of Light's saint is more powerful, and she's also a woman. Let them fight and see who's better." "Haha, interesting." Lung Wufeng laughed out loud. He suddenly felt that Chu Li's recommendation was not out of good intentions. Women understood women the best, and no matter how powerful a man was, he would not be able to guess what a woman would do. In that case, if he wanted to go against the Holy Church of Light, he would need an extremely intelligent woman. Chu Li said, "Moreover, His Highness the Crown Prince trusts her the most. Other than her, His Highness the Crown Prince will inevitably overthink." "Humph," Lung Wufeng scoffed. Chu Li smiled. "As for me, I'm just a peasant in a remote village, and I can't stand being restrained." All right, let Lu Yurong do it." Lung Wufeng grinned. "She owes you a favor." Chu Li said, "I have a personal grudge against her, so I'm recommending her purely out of the public interest. It's rare for you to be so considerate." Lung Wufeng nodded slowly. Chapter 1207. P.S. The 41st Alliance is born, and its leader is a carefree individual. Chu Li fist saluted. "I'll take my leave then." He turned around and left. "Chu Li, you killed Guyu, right?" Lung Wufeng suddenly asked. Chu Li stopped in his tracks and turned around to look. "You did, didn't you?" Lung Wufeng said, "I won't pursue this matter. Guyu was reckless and incompetent. I'm very disappointed." Chu Li felt a chill down his spine. He sighed and shook his head. "Your Majesty, you're overthinking. I don't have a deep grudge against Commander Gu. It's just a small matter. I won't kill him even if I'm angry. I'll just beat him up to vent my anger. He can't do anything to me anyway." According to him, he has evidence that you're colluding with the Holy Church of Light, Guyu said. Chu Li was stunned. He did not expect Guyu to tell the emperor about this. He laughed. "Commander Gu might be able to believe that I'm colluding with other forces, but it's ridiculous to say that I'm colluding with the Holy Church of Light. The Holy Church of Light and I are like fire and water. They won't allow me to collude with them. They'll kill me no matter what." "Guyu won't lie to me." Lung Wufeng shook his head. "He must have found evidence." "Chu Li, are you sure you're not colluding with the Holy Church of Light?" Chu Li raised his finger and swore to the heavens. Oaths were extremely restrictive because of the existence of Outland. Once an oath was taken, it would correspond to heaven and earth, making it particularly effective. Chu Li was not afraid of oaths. He was not colluding with the Holy Church of Light. He only snuck into the Holy Church to deal with them. The two were completely different. Lung Wufeng nodded in satisfaction and smiled. "How do you think the Holy Church of Light should be dealt with?" Chu Li shook his head. Even the emperor can't deal with it. How can I? All right, you may leave. Lung Wufeng waved his hand. Chu Li fist saluted and strode away. Early in the morning, the bright sun shone on the backyard of the crown prince's residence. Lu Yurong was quietly reading in the gazebo while a beautiful young lady was playing the guzheng. The sound of the guzheng soothed Lu Yurong's worries as she focused on her reading. Hurried footsteps were heard as Lung Jinghua strode toward them. He was beaming with joy, and there was a gust of wind beneath his feet. Yurong, congratulations. He laughed heartily as he entered the pagoda. The beautiful girl's music came to an abrupt end, and she tactfully excused herself. Lung Jinghua sat opposite Lu Yurong and laughed. It's done. Yurong, you'll soon be the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. So fast. Lu Yurong was surprised. She originally thought that the emperor would take the opportunity to observe the actions of the courtiers and then look at Chu Li's actions. She did not expect that the emperor would immediately make a decision and skip many steps in the middle, which surprised her. Lung Jinghua chuckled. Speaking of which, I have to thank Chu Li. He went to the palace to meet the emperor just now and rejected the position of commander to recommend you instead. Lu Yurong snorted. Even if Chu Li had not rejected him, he would not have been able to become the commander. Since Chu Li had conveniently recommended him, Chu Li really had to thank him. Otherwise, the longer the delay, the more trouble there would be. Who knew what other problems might occur? And who knew if someone else would intervene? Lung Jinghua sighed. This guy is really unexpected. Why would he recommend you, Yurong? He's up to no good. Lu Yurong scoffed. He must have thought that the emperor despises him and that the person he recommended would not be approved by the emperor. He didn't expect the emperor to agree to it. That makes sense. Lung Jinghua clapped his hands and laughed. He shot himself in the foot this time. Great, ha ha. He looked up to the sky and laughed. He was overjoyed. He had always held a grudge against Chu Li and never succeeded in finding trouble with him. Now that he finally saw Chu Li being humiliated, he felt an indescribable joy. Lu Yurong smiled. But uncle-in-law, I'm not confident that I can take this position out of the blue. You can handle it. Lung Jinghua was confident in her. He smiled. Just do whatever you want. Also, don't let Chu Li go. We can't deal with him now. Lu Yurong sighed. After all, he recommended me. We can't let others say that we're biting the hand that feeds us. That's fine. Lung Jinghua said. Start preparing now. If there's a chance in the future, we'll get rid of him and kick him out of the fairies' capital. That way, he won't be able to stir up trouble. Yes. Lu Yurong smiled. Don't worry, uncle-in-law. I want to kick him out even more. He's a thorn in my side. That's true. Lung Jinghua understood what she was thinking. She had always been resourceful, and no one could compare to her. She had always been invincible and had never been defeated. However, after meeting Chu Li, she was always at a disadvantage and had suffered many losses. She was definitely not convinced and wanted nothing more than to get back at him. He stood up and said, "Go and thank her so that she won't pick on you." Yes. Lu Yurong nodded. Chu Li sat in the Tianshu courtyard while Xiao sat opposite him. She stared at him without blinking. Her eyes were as deep as an ancient pond. It was as if her soul was being sucked into it. Chu Li said helplessly, "My lady, I really can't be the commander. The emperor used me to test everyone. I don't want to be used like this. That's why I recommended Lu Yurong." "Why did you have to recommend Lu Yurong?" Xiao scoffed. "Is there really something going on between the two of you?" Chu Li looked helpless. Xiao scoffed. "What's in it for you to help Lu Yurong get this position?" Before Chu Li invited her to the palace, he had already told her about his plan. However, when she saw the result that Chu Li had predicted, she was a little unhappy. The commander of the Secret Guardians Hall was so close to him. He was so close to becoming the commander, but he just had to give it up so casually. Chu Li smiled. There's nothing special in it. It's just a message. My lady, don't worry. This matter is finally over. As long as she succeeds as the commander, everything will return to normal. Seosher said, I hope she won't provoke us. I won't. Chu Li shook his head. Seosher pouted. I've seen too many people who burn bridges after crossing the river. Lu Yurong isn't a kind person. She'll definitely think of ways to weaken you. You have to be careful. Don't fall into her hands. Chu Li nodded. I'll be careful. I need to go out for a while. You're the busiest. Seosher scoffed and waved her hand. Chu Li stood up and returned to his courtyard. He suddenly disappeared and reappeared in his house in Gale City. He had already transformed into Zhao De and was sitting on his bed with his legs crossed. He had sensed that the jade pendant had been crushed, so he rushed back. Ko Chiong was standing outside. He was crushing the jade pendant and staring at the crushed pieces on the floor. Chu Li said, What's the matter? Come in. Ko Chiong quickly pushed the door open and gave a fist salute. Branch leader. What happened? Chu Li asked. Ko Chiong said, Branch leader, we've received news that a patrol has been assassinated in the Ji dynasty. Assassinated? Chu Li was stunned. Patrols from the Holy Church of Light were difficult to kill. They all had a unique escape skill, especially the Ji dynasty. Their overall strength was on the weaker side. It was surprising that they could kill a patrol. Ko Chiong said, Yes, he's been assassinated. The news has spread throughout the Great Light Peak. I heard that the Saint plans to promote you to a patrol and avenge the previous patrol in the Ji dynasty. Chapter 12:08. Ko Chiong widened his eyes and looked at Chu Li eagerly. Chu Li glared at him. Why? You want me to be a patrol? It's such a good opportunity to be promoted. Don't you want to go? Ko Chiong was surprised. Chu Li shook his head. It's unjustifiable. I won't go. Young master, this is a rare opportunity. Ko Chiong hurriedly said, If you miss this opportunity, I don't know when you will get another one. The war with the Chiu dynasty is coming to an end, so it'll be very difficult for me to get promoted again. There will be, Chu Li said faintly. Besides, I don't need to be promoted. I'm fine here. Young master, with your martial arts and talents, it's a waste of your talents to stay in Gale City. What do you mean by that? I like being free and unfettered here. Young master is not someone who is willing to be under others. Young? Gather? Si Fei blackmails the emperor and seizes Sangjun. Ko Chiong shook his head and chuckled. Gale branch is the most powerful branch now, so no one dares to mess around. By the way, Miss Yuru has returned. Chu Li nodded. Looks like he's out of isolated cultivation. All right, you may continue with your work. Ko Chiong cupped his fists and left. Chu Li sat on the bed and began to cultivate Philip Swift Thunder. As the number of times he cultivated and the time he spent cultivating Philip Swift Thunder became faster and faster. Unlike other martial arts, which became slower and slower as he progressed, Philip Swift Thunder became faster and faster, like a rolling snowball. The beginning of finger-flicking Swift Thunder was difficult, and it was a great challenge for everyone. It exceeded their limits, and it was too complicated, and it consumed a lot of their spirit. It was more painful to exhaust one's spirit than one's body. The former was like the feeling of waking up with a hangover, painful and unbearable, while the latter was equivalent to heavy physical labor. Although it was painful, there was a hidden sense of comfort. They were two completely different feelings, so very few people could endure the mental pain and would rather let their bodies be exhausted. His mental strength was strong, so he could activate his circulatory cycle faster than others. Even so, after more than 100 circulatory cycles, when he opened his eyes, it was already early evening. The house was dark, but the courtyard was as bright as day. He stood up and walked out of the room. A maid served him dinner and stood by his side. The sound of footsteps could be heard again. Ko Cheong rushed in, his face full of anger. Chu Li looked up at him. What happened this time? As the deputy branch master, you must be steady. Young master, we've received news from the Great Light Peak again, Ko Cheong said. Someone has beaten us to it and snatched the patrol's position. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Which one? Deng Da Tong. Ko Cheong said hatefully, I didn't expect this bastard to be so shameless, taking advantage of the situation. Chu Li put down his chopsticks and pointed to the opposite side. Sit down and we'll talk. Ko Cheong sat at the other end of the stone table and sighed. I heard that this Deng Datong has already made a military pledge to avenge the previous patrol within 10 days. Otherwise, he will not be the patrol anymore. Chu Li frowned. Since he dared to say such big words, he definitely had something up his sleeves. Moreover, he was 120% confident. Otherwise, he would not have acted like this. None of the disciples of the Holy Church of Light were fools. On the contrary, they were all extraordinarily intelligent. Since Deng Datong had spoken like this, he must have found the murderer and was confident that he could kill him. Forget it then. Chu Li nodded. Young master, this is too infuriating. Ko Cheong said, this isn't fair. Chu Li could not help but laugh. How do you know it's not fair? As far as I know, the saint is very fair. Based on your contributions, young master, you should have been promoted to patrol long ago. You've been suppressing him all this time, and you've given such a good opportunity to someone else. Ko Cheong scoffed. Deng Datong was just lucky to have contributed a little in the war against the Qiu dynasty. Compared to young master, your contributions are nothing. Chu Li smiled and waved his hand. All right, since this matter has been decided, let's not bother about him. Young master, if you don't say anything this time, I'm afraid this will happen again next time. Kind people will be bullied. Ko Cheong said, Young master, you should talk to the saint about it. She can't bully people like this. Stop. Pui. Back. Bun to relieve boredom. Oysters, broken bones, and ribbons. Pui. Bad dreams are easy to masturbate. Ko Cheong immediately became discouraged. Chu Li scoffed. Don't talk about this anymore. I'll be staying here for a few days, and I'll be going into isolated cultivation soon. Oh, right. Find out who killed the patrol. Yes, Ko Cheong said dejectedly. Chu Li waved his hand and gestured for him to leave. Ko Cheong had no choice but to leave. Chu Li pondered and looked up at the sky, then at the direction of the Great Light Peak. He sighed in relief. He had been worried about this when he first infiltrated the Holy Church of Light. If he were to attack the Ji dynasty, even people who did not know him would feel uncomfortable. This opportunity might seem important to others, but he avoided it as if he was avoiding a snake or a scorpion. Now, it seemed that he should not be promoted anymore. Otherwise, if he became a patrol, or even an altar leader or a priest, he would have to deal with the Ji dynasty. The Ji dynasty was the Li dynasty's biggest enemy. After dinner, Chu Li was not in a hurry to leave. He walked around Gale City to let others see him. When he passed by the Phoenix Goddess brothel, he did not go in to meet Miss Yuru. The next morning, he returned to his bedroom from the public house. Ko Cheong was already waiting outside. He stood motionless in the middle of the courtyard as if he was meditating. Chu Li asked, "What's the matter?" Ko Chiong answered, "Young master, someone from the Great Light Peak is here." "Let her in," Chu Li said lazily. "Yes," Ko Chiong responded, and quickly brought a young lady in green. Chu Li left the bedroom and went down the stairs. He fist saluted and smiled. "Senior Sister Du, junior brother Zhao." The young lady in green had a graceful figure and a beautiful face. She fist saluted and smiled. "I'm summoned by the saint." "All right, let's go now," Chu Li said. The two of them used their light body technique and flew out of Gale City. The young lady in green pushed her light body technique to its limit. She floated like a gust of wind, but her speed was as fast as lightning. She was twice as fast as a galloping horse and had a longer endurance. Chu Li followed her leisurely and asked casually, "Senior Sister Du, I heard that another patrol has been appointed?" "Yes." The young lady in green nodded. She was secretly surprised. Zhao De lived up to his reputation. He had cultivated for a short period of time, but his cultivation level was far higher than hers. Chu Li asked, "Senior brother Deng has left the mountain after he became the patrol, right?" "Senior brother Deng is waiting for you, junior brother Zhao." The young lady in green shook her head. Chu Li was stunned. "Waiting for me? I don't think I know senior brother Deng. We're not friends. That's strange." The young lady in green smiled. "Senior brother Deng seems to value you a lot. He specifically asked the saint for your help." Chu Li frowned. "What help does he need?" "To avenge senior brother Chang." The young lady in green said, "Senior brother Deng has issued a military order to avenge senior brother Chang within 10 days. However, he has a condition. He wants you to be his assistant, junior brother Zhao." Chu Li asked, "Did the saint agree?" "Yes." The young lady in green nodded. Chu Li's face darkened. The young lady in green noticed his expression and quickly said, "This is an opportunity to make a contribution. Senior brother Deng has good intentions." Chu Li shook his head with a gloomy face. The young lady in green asked, "Why? Are you unwilling, junior brother Zhao?" Chu Li scoffed. "If I'm going to avenge senior brother Chang, why should I be senior brother Deng's assistant? I can do it myself." Chapter 1209. It was ironic that he was asked to kill Li Hanyan. The girl in green said, "The culprit this time is said to be extremely powerful. She's known as the Ruthless Fairy. I'm afraid he won't be able to handle her by himself. You two have to work together to have a chance." "Senior brother Deng, you're so calculative." Chu Li scoffed. The girl in green smiled and nodded. As an outsider, she also felt that senior brother Deng was too calculative. It was clearly the work of two people, but only one of them took it. He wanted Chu Li to help him ascend to the position of patrol. It would be fine if it was someone else, but Chu Li's position as a branch leader was a waste of his talents. With his merits, if he did not cause trouble, he would have become an altar leader. This was a good opportunity for him to become a patrol. This time, the patrol was snatched away by force. Not only did she snatch his opportunity, but she still wanted him to help her. What a coward. Then, the two stopped talking and hurried on with their journey. In the evening, the two arrived at the Great Light Peak. The girl in green was faster than Li Wulin due to her light body technique. Chu Li followed her to the Divine Light Basilica. The basilica was quiet and cold. Sun Mingyue was the only one sitting behind the table reading the dossiers. Chu Li followed Senior Sister Du to the basilica. Senior Sister Du gestured for him to wait and left quietly. Chu Li stood where he was and looked up at Sun Mingyue without saying a word. Even though Sun Mingyue was in the basilica, she still wore a white veil. Only her beautiful eyes were exposed. Her phoenix eyes were so intimidating that no one dared to look at her directly. Chuli did not mind and looked at her calmly. She read very quickly. In the blink of an eye, she flipped through one scroll and moved on to another. The tall stack of dossiers on the upper left corner of the table was quickly moved to the upper right corner. She finished reading the dossiers in one breath and looked down at him. Xiao De, Chuli Fist saluted. Greetings, Saint. Did Xiaodu tell you? Yes. What do you think? Ridiculous. Sun Minghua frowned and narrowed her eyes at him coldly. Chuli sneered. Saint, you agreed to his request? He's sure that he'll be able to get his revenge. Of course, I agree. Sun Minghua lightly said, Don't you want to avenge Patrol Chang? Why should I avenge him? Chuli said impatiently, He was unlucky and actually died in the Ji dynasty. He's a laughingstock to the world and a disgrace to the Holy Church of Light. It doesn't matter if someone like him dies. How dare you? Sun Minghua shouted. Chuli replied disapprovingly. Besides, if you want to take revenge, then take revenge. Why are you dragging me into this? I'm currently undergoing isolated cultivation in Gale City, and it's a crucial moment that I can't afford to be delayed. Why do you have to bother me with these boring things? Can't you see that I'm in peace? Xiao De, you're getting more and more impudent. Sun Minghua frowned and scoffed. Do you think that I don't dare to punish you? Chuli asked. Which rule did I break? Sun Minghua took a deep breath. Her voluptuous chest, which was covered by her loose white robe, heaved up and down violently. She said coldly, Your words are too heartless. I've never even met that senior brother Chang or that senior brother Deng. Chuli said helplessly. What friendship? I won't deal with it hypocritically. Just because we're all part of the Holy Church, we're as close as a family. This is too fake. Shut up. Sun Minghua snorted. Chuli stopped and looked at her quietly. Sun Minghua said, If you can help Deng Datong kill Li Hanyan, I'll promote you to patrol. Chuli frowned and looked at her. Is there still a vacancy for patrol? You don't have to worry about that, Sun Minghua said. Chuli shook his head. I'm not going. Are you going to disobey me again? Sun Minghua glared at him coldly. Her eyes were filled with coldness. Chuli said, Saint, aren't you deliberately making things difficult for me? Killing two birds with one stone. What's so difficult about it? Sun Minghua scoffed. If the two of you work together, that Li Hanyan will be beheaded no matter how powerful she is. Chuli scoffed. The key isn't killing Li Hanyan. It's Deng Datong. What do you mean? Sun Minghua asked. Chuli scoffed. Saint, you're so smart. Do I need to explain? This time, Deng Datong was too unreasonable. If I agree, what about the next time? Everyone will want to order me around. Why should I be ordered around by them? He suggested it, and I agreed. Sun Minghua said coldly. Chuli shook his head. Then forgive me for not being able to comply. Sun Minghua stared at him coldly. Chuli refused to back down and stared back at her. Their gazes seemed to be clashing in the air, like swords clashing, sparks flew. If that's the case, you should move your position as the branch leader of Gale Branch, Sun Minghua said as she looked away. Chuli said, Even if I'm expelled from the Holy Church of Light, I won't bow down. Either you work with him to kill Li Hanyan, or you remove your position as the branch leader, Sun Minghua said. Chuli said, Saint, you think I'm not suitable to be the branch leader, so you want to give it to someone else, right? You know my temper, but you're purposely making things difficult for me. Why? This is a very common thing, but you're taking it as an insult. Sun Minghua scoffed. Your thinking is too extreme. Deng Datong wants to ask you for help because Your martial arts is brilliant. Everyone in the church knows about it. She was purposely making things difficult for Chu Li to test his temper. If he was not tactful enough, how could he get along with the other disciples of the Holy Church? If he was not patient enough, how could he ascend to a high position? Although the priest and altar leader needed powerful martial arts and sufficient merits, if his temperament was not good and he threw tantrums at the slightest provocation, it would be detrimental to the Holy Church. If he ascended to a high position with such a temper, he would cause a lot of trouble. Therefore, she tried every possible way to polish Chu Li and get rid of his temper. An unpolished jade was worthless. Humph! Chu Li sneered. The priest and altar leader are both highly skilled in martial arts. Why didn't he ask for their help? It's because your position is low, Sun Mingwe said. Chu Li said, no matter how low my position is, not everyone can order me around. Yes, even I can't order you around, let alone others. Sun Mingwe said sarcastically, looks like you don't want to be the branch leader anymore. Chu Li said, Saint, if you really want to force me, I'll kill Li Hanyan before he does. Let's see if he's worthy of being a patrol. It seemed like Li Hanyan was going to suffer revenge from the Holy Church of Light. This was a good opportunity for her to make a name for herself. Although she had made a name for herself, it was only in the great Ji dynasty. If she could fight evenly with the Holy Church of Light, it would be more beneficial to her reputation, and it would be more intimidating to others. Snow Lunar Pavilion was peaceful now. This was related to his deterrence and the rise of Li Hanyan. Ruthless Fairy was famous. Sun Mingwe stared at him. Chu Li stared back at her, unwilling to be outdone. Both of them were in a stalemate again. Sun Mingwe had to suppress him no matter what. Otherwise, she would lose all her prestige, and the disciples of the Holy Church would dare to disobey her. Saint, Senior Brother Deng is outside asking for an audience. Senior Sister Du's voice was heard. Let him in. Sun Mingwe said. Her eyes were still on Chu Li. Chu Li shifted his gaze to the entrance of the basilica. A tall, thin, and handsome young man walked in slowly and gave a fist salute respectfully. Greetings, Saint. Deng Datong, Zhao De is here. Sun Mingwe waved her hand. Deng Datong gave a fist salute. He smiled at Chu Li and said, Junior Brother Zhao, please take care of me. Chu Li gave a fist salute expressionlessly. Chapter 12:10. Chu Li replied, Without my help, would Senior Brother Deng have been able to kill Li Hanyan? This. Deng Datong hesitated before shaking his head. That woman is truly powerful, or else Senior Brother Chang wouldn't have lost to her. My martial arts skills are similar to Senior Brother Chang's. I'm afraid I might not be her match. Chu Li replied, I could have killed Li Hanyan without your help, Senior Brother Deng. Oh, Deng Datong smiled disapprovingly. Although Junior Brother Zhao is powerful, you've only been cultivating for a short period of time. Li Hanyan, on the other hand, is a genius. I heard that her aptitude is not inferior to Chu Li's. She rose like a comet in just 2 years. She mustn't be underestimated. Who does Chu Li think he is? Chu Li sneered. Deng Datong became even more disapproving. Junior Brother Zhao, Du Feng of the south, and Chu Li of the north. I heard that Du Feng killed Prince and of the Ji dynasty, and was hunted by the Ji dynasty emperor, but he managed to escape to the Fu dynasty. Chu Li said, Let's not talk about this. Let's talk about Li Hanyan. Senior Brother Deng, you couldn't have killed Li Hanyan, but you made such a military pledge and even tied me up to help you. You're taking advantage of the situation without risking anything. I'm impressed. He squinted at him with a sarcastic expression. Hee hee, you're too kind. I still need junior brother Zhao's help. Deng Datong was not ashamed and was instead very proud. Chu Li said coldly, I'm curious. Would the saint allow such a thing to happen? Son, Mingyue said, the Holy Church advocates not sticking to one pattern. Martial arts isn't the only thing that matters in making contributions. It also requires wisdom and skill. Since he has such guts and means, why would he object? That's true. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Senior brother Deng, I'll have to disappoint you. I won't help you. Deng Datong was stunned and his expression changed. Junior brother Zhao, why? Why should I help you? Chu Li said lazily, why should I help you? If you had discussed it with me before making such a decision, that would have been fine. But you acted first and reported later. You didn't even tell me and forcefully kidnapped me into the carriage. How could I agree to that? This is something that benefits everyone. Why not? Deng Datong said in surprise. I've become a patrol inspector, and junior brother Zhao, you've also performed a meritorious deed. Although you can't become a patrol inspector, I'm sure you'll be able to do it next time. Chu Li said coldly, Brother Deng, if it wasn't for you this time, I would have definitely become the patrol. You stole my position, and I still have to help you. How can there be such a good thing in this world? I see. Deng Datong shook his head and said, Junior brother Zhao, you should be broad-minded. You're still young, and it's not appropriate for you to suddenly become a patrol. It's not too late to train for another 2 years. Chu Li scoffed. In terms of martial arts and contributions, senior brother Deng, you're better than me in both. You still want to scheme against me and take advantage of your seniority. You're really blind. His words had already turned hostile, and he did not hesitate to mock him. Deng Datong's expression did not change as he smiled and said to Sun Mingyue, Holy Maiden, junior brother Zhao is still young and full of vigor. Sun Mingyue was calm and did not say a word. It was obvious that she wanted the two of them to discuss it among themselves. Chu Li sneered and said, Just because he's young, he should train for another 2 years. What a joke. The Holy Maiden is young. That's not what I meant. Deng Datong hurriedly waved his hand and looked at Sun Mingyue helplessly. Sun Mingyue secretly shook her head. Deng Datong's tactics were powerful, and he was thick-skinned, but his eloquence was far inferior to Chu Li's. She waved her hand and said, Deng Datong, you'll have to deal with the assistant yourself. If you can convince him, do it. If you can't, find someone else. Zhao De isn't the only one with great martial arts in the Holy Church of Light. Deng Datong hesitated. He originally wanted to use the saint to pressure Chu Li and force him to agree. However, the saint obviously did not want to force Zhao De, so he was forced into a corner. He said helplessly, Junior brother Zhao, you're going to be promoted to patrol soon. As long as you make another contribution this time, it'll be your turn next time. Chu Li said, Humph, the next time I encounter a shameless person like senior brother Deng, who uses despicable means, I won't be promoted to patrol. His sarcasm were tantamount to a torrent of abuse. However, Deng Datong's expression did not change. Chu Li was shocked by his shamelessness. It was rare to see such a shameless person. It seemed like he should not be underestimated. Sun Mingyue glanced at him. She knew that Chu Li was harboring killing intent. Deng Datong said, Tell me, junior brother Zhao, what do you want in exchange for your help? Chu Li scoffed and said, I won't help you with this. Be sensible and choose someone else. See you. He turned to leave after he finished speaking. Wait. Deng Datong stood in front of him. Junior brother Zhao, I'll agree to anything as long as the conditions are right. Tell me about it. Chu Li kept walking forward and was about to bump into Deng Datong. Deng Datong's expression darkened. Junior brother Zhao, why are you so proud? Are you sure that you won't need my help in the future? I won't, Chu said coldly. He almost touched Deng Datong's shoulder, but he did not stop. Deng Datong did not move away either. Their shoulders pressed against each other. Chu Li curled his lips in disdain and lightly shook his shoulder. Bang! Deng Datong was sent flying and crashed into a round and thick red lacquer pillar. He went limp as if he had lost his bones. He slid down the pillar and looked at Chu Li with soulless eyes. Chu Li shook his head and said, Senior brother Deng, you're too weak to even stand up to a gust of wind. With such insignificant martial arts, you actually want to go against Li Hanyan. I advise you to give up. Don't throw your life away. Zhao De. Sun Mingyue scoffed. Chu Li said, I didn't fight. I just bumped into him. My hands didn't move. Sun Mingyue said, You hit him so hard. Chu Li said, I was reflecting the force. I reflected back the same amount of force that senior brother Deng used. Sun Mingyue waved her hand. Get lost. Chu Li was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he looked at Deng Datong. Senior brother Deng, you're so cruel. You hit him so hard, but you still hurt yourself. How is it? You won't die, right? Deng Datong did not move. His blood was boiling. His body felt like water and fire were fighting. They could not merge, and his body had become their battlefield. His organs felt like they were being cut by a knife. His body was limp, and he could not exert any strength. He struggled to say, Junior brother Zhao, don't lie. This isn't my inner energy. Chu Li smiled. I forgot to tell you, I've cultivated the earth matrix and reincarnation scripture. I can reverse yin and yang. Your inner energy is of extreme yin. I've turned it into extreme yang and sent it back. It feels good, doesn't it? You. Deng Datong pointed at him. His eyes were filled with anger. Chu Li's proud smile turned into a sneer. Next time, keep your eyes open. You can't take advantage of just anyone. Saint, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Zhao De, help him kill Li Hanyan, Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li was stunned. He looked at her helplessly. Sun Mingyue said, Li Hanyan's martial arts is outstanding. She's especially good at killing people. She's a threat. You two should work together to kill her. Chu Li glanced at Deng Datong and suddenly nodded. Yes, he had a deep understanding of people's hearts. When he met Sun Mingyue alone, he would not save her face. He would oppose her if necessary. However, at this time, he would not be so unscrupulous. He could feel Sun Mingyue's determination. Hence, he took a step back and agreed. He was no longer as stubborn as before. Sun Mingyue secretly sighed in relief. She was worried that he would resist. She looked at Chu Li. Remember, the disciples of the church are not allowed to kill each other. If you go against this, you know the consequences. Of course. Chu Li smiled. Sun Mingyue scoffed. Go, Chu Li said. Senior brother Deng, I'll leave first. You can look for me in Gale's city. Without waiting for Deng Datong's reply, Chu Li glided away. Deng Datong's face turned purple. He was in great pain. He was slightly regretful. He knew that Zhao De was powerful, but he did not expect him to be this powerful. Moreover, he had such a bad character. He thought it was just a rumor. Now, he knew that it was not an exaggeration. Chapter 1211. P.S. The 42nd Alliance leader, Alan, Sun Mingyue glanced at Deng Datong and said calmly, Be careful of Zhao De. Yes, Deng Datong understood what she meant. He was also a little worried. Zhao De had the experience of killing an altar master, so he would not be lenient when it came to killing fellow disciples of the Holy Church. He originally thought that Zhao De was young and that he would be able to appease him with just a few words. However, it seemed like Zhao De did not fall for it at all. Sun Mingwe said, "You've made a mistake this time. I don't think there's any hope." Deng Datong's expression changed, and he forced a smile. "Saint, does he really dare to disobey orders?" Sun Mingwe said calmly, "He's not afraid of death. Even if he doesn't dare to disobey orders, he won't obediently carry them out. I think he'll play some tricks. You should be careful." She was disdainful of Deng Datong, but as a saint, she had to be fair and would not use people based on her preferences. No matter how disdainful he was, she could not abandon him. Otherwise, it would be unfair and people would retreat, which would not benefit the Holy Church. If the Holy Church wanted to be strong, it had to be inclusive. Just like the ocean, there must be clear and muddy currents, or else it would not be far from destruction. This kind of controlling technique was the basic ability of a saintess. Deng Datong groaned in his heart and nodded reluctantly. "Go, there are 8 days left." Sun Mingwe said, "Do you know where Li Hanyan is now?" "I'll find her outside Snow Lunar Pavilion." Deng Datong smiled. "I just need to kill a few Snow Lunar Pavilion disciples to lure her out. Snow Lunar Pavilion is not to be trifled with. You have to be careful." Sun Mingwe frowned. They are inextricably linked to Dufeng and also have connections with Chu Li. They are under his protection. You might encounter Chu Li. That's what I'm looking for. Deng Datong smiled. Sun Mingwe saw that he did not care and frowned secretly, but she did not think too much about it. She was only responsible for giving orders. As for how her subordinates completed their tasks, she would not interfere. Everyone had their own way of doing things. Some were even deviant, but they were very effective. She waved her hand. Deng Datong struggled to stand up, cupped his fists, and respectfully retreated. As soon as he left the light palace, he stumbled down the steps. His face was so dark that water was about to drip out. He clenched his teeth, his eyes spitting fire. Even a clay doll had a temper. Moreover, he had always thought highly of himself. Chu Li had humiliated him in such a manner, but he was trying to maintain his poise in front of the saint. He did not want to ruin his image, or else he would have his face darkened again. He wanted to take care of this fellow, but he was actually unable to defeat him. His cultivation was truly astonishing. Only now did he realize that he had underestimated this fellow. Pooh! He bent down again and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face suddenly became as pale as a sheet of paper. The two auras, which had been slowly calming down, once again clashed violently. It was as if the two sides were fighting again after a pause, and the conflict was even more intense. Two opposing auras clashed in his body, and his internal organs felt like they were being stirred up. He felt like his body was no longer his own and was being completely controlled by the two inner forces, clashing against each other without restraint. Uffed, he spat out a mouthful of blood and sat weakly on the ground. This was the peak of the Great Light Peak. The strong wind was piercingly cold, and the cold air was like a knife. Previously, when he was full of inner energy, he had inner energy to protect his body, so the cold air could not enter his body. Now that he was suddenly weakened, the cold air took the opportunity to enter his body. In the blink of an eye, his lips were frozen, and his body was numb. He was terrified. If this went on, he would probably freeze to death in 10 minutes. Senior Brother Deng? Duing, a young lady in green, happened to pass by and noticed his abnormal condition. She stopped and asked with concern. She was the young lady in green who brought Chu Li back earlier. Deng Datong could no longer speak, and even the muscles on his face were frozen. He could only move his eyes, revealing a look of anxiety. Unfortunately, those who were not familiar with him could not see the meaning in his eyes. Doing looked at him suspiciously, but when she saw that he was not moving and his expression was ugly, she did not dare to touch him. This situation seemed like he was possessed. She turned her head to look around, but no one was around. "Senior Brother Deng, wait for a moment. I'll call someone over," the young lady in green said. Deng Datong was so anxious that he wanted to scream. If this went on, he would freeze to death. That would be a big joke. He secretly cursed Chu Li. This inner energy was really vicious, and it came wave after wave. If this went on, he would really be killed. Was Xiao Dai really that bold to kill him? "Senior Brother Li," Doing suddenly called out in surprise. A middle-aged man fluttered over and said in a deep voice, "Junior Sister Du, I want to see the saint." "What are you?" Senior Brother Li, quickly take a look at Senior Brother Deng. "What's wrong?" Du-ing quickly pointed at Deng Datong, who was sitting on the ground, trembling from the cold. The middle-aged man, Li Tsubing, glanced at him. "Oh, he's injured." "Then quickly save Senior Brother Deng," Du-ing quickly said. Li Tsubing said, "It's better not to move him in this condition." Deng Datong cursed in his heart. "Li Tsubing, how dare you leave him in the lurch? It's just a small misunderstanding." Doing asked, "What should we do?" "Give him a spirit pill," Li Tsubing said plainly. "Give him a hand." Yes, give him a spirit pill." Du-ing quickly nodded and took out a porcelain bottle from her sleeve. "I only have this fortifying pill. Help Senior Brother Deng replenish his inner energy." Very good," Li Tsubing said. Du-ing stuffed the fortifying pill into Deng Datong's mouth. Deng Datong was almost frozen and could not open his mouth. Li Tsubing reached out and pried open his mouth, leaving clear fingerprints on Deng Datong's cheeks. Deng Datong's face was already numb, and he could not feel any pain. After the fortifying pill entered his body, the two inner energies, one yin and one yang, increased at the same time. They were originally from the same source, and the fortifying pill replenished both of them at the same time. It was as if he was injected with new energy, tossing and turning more violently, causing his organs to suffer more damage. Uffed, Deng Datong spat out another mouthful of blood. This time, he could not open his mouth, and blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. "Senior Brother Deng." Du-ing was shocked and quickly turned to look at Li Tsubing. Li Tsubing frowned. "It seems that his injuries are not light. I can't care anymore. Let me carry him." Okay. Du-ing quickly agreed. Li Tsubing said, "Junior Sister Du, come with us." I don't think that's necessary," Du-ing said. Li Tsubing shook his head. "I have some grudges with this guy. If anything happens to him, I won't be able to explain myself." "All right then," Du-ing smiled. "But I believe that no matter what, Senior Brother Li will not kill Senior Brother Deng." "That's true." Li Tsubing nodded. "Although this old Deng is a little shameless, our grudge is not that big." As he spoke, he lifted Deng Datong by the collar and glided down. Du-ing followed him to a small courtyard halfway up the mountain. It was Li Tsubing's courtyard. Chapter 12:12. Li Tsubing placed Deng Datong on the bed and took a look at him before shaking his head. "I didn't expect him to be so badly injured. Was he punished by the saint?" "That can't be," Du-ing hurriedly said. "The saint wouldn't do it." Li Tsubing said, "Then who else could it be? It can't be that he was overwhelmed by anger and went berserk, right?" "Was he frightened by the saint?" Du-ing asked. She had seen such situations many times. "The saint's aura was too strong. Even the most powerful of heroes would be dwarfed in front of the saint. They would lose their momentum, and if they were taught a lesson by the saint, their blood would boil, and they would lose control. Although it was not to the extent of injury, it was still quite frightening. Perhaps Deng Datong was even more frightened. Li Tsubing scoffed. This old Deng has no other skills, but he's audacious and thick-skinned. He's unparalleled. Could it be junior brother Zhao? Doing hesitated. Li Tsubing said, "Which junior brother Zhao?" "Junior brother Zhao De." Doing said, "Senior brother Deng wants junior brother Zhao to help kill Li Hanyan and avenge senior brother Chang." "Oh, about that." Li Tsubing curled his lips. Old Deng must have been possessed. Doing sighed and shook her head, without saying anything. She did not think much of it, but since the saint did not say anything, she had nothing else to say. Li Tsubing said that Zhao De is not to be trifled with. It's fine if old Deng flaunts his authority in front of others, but he's simply courting death by doing that to Zhao De. Doing sighed softly. The saint agreed too. Of course the saint wouldn't object directly, or old Deng would be dissatisfied. Did old Deng meet with junior brother Zhao? Yes, they were both in the Divine Light Basilica. I know. It must be junior brother Zhao's doing. This time, old Deng has kicked a steel plate. Ha ha. Li Tsubing laughed heartily. He was overjoyed and felt extremely satisfied. Finally, someone had taught him a harsh lesson. "Senior brother Li, what about senior brother Deng's injury?" Doing asked, "Is it serious?" "He won't die." Li Tsubing laughed. Uffed. Deng Datong spat out another mouthful of black blood. He was limp and unable to move. Compared to the stiffness he felt earlier, he was much better. When the two inner energies clashed in his body, the cold energy had seized the opportunity to invade his body. After returning here, the two inner energies had destroyed the cold energy, allowing him to survive. Otherwise, the cold energy would have frozen him to death. The strong winds on Great Light Peak could really freeze people to death. "Is that enough, old Deng?" Li Tsubing scoffed. Deng Datong's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. The purplish hue had faded from his skin, but the fingerprints on his face were even clearer. "He won't die, right?" Li Tsubing asked. Deng Datong shook his head and said, "I won't die." His voice was dry and hoarse like a broken gong. Li Tsubing chuckled. "You were defeated by junior brother Zhao. This guy is truly vicious." Deng Datong said hatefully. His eyes seemed to be spewing fire as he gritted his teeth. Then he felt the pain on his cheeks and glared at Li Tsubing. Li Tsubing smiled and said, "I couldn't care less just now. I thought you were going to die. Do you want me to heal you?" "Thank you very much," Deng Datong said bluntly. Deng Datong felt Li Tsubing's pulse. Although Deng Datong was angry at Deng Datong and wanted to play tricks on him, he would not go so far as to kill Deng Datong. He was completely different from Chu Li's ruthlessness. They were brothers from the same sect. Li Tsubing scoffed and sat cross-legged behind Deng Datong. Then he placed his palms on Deng Datong's back and began channeling. Bang! Li Tsubing suddenly flew backward and crashed into the wall. He hung there motionlessly, and only a bitter smile appeared on his face. "Senior brother Li?" Doing cried out. Li Tsubing spat out a mouthful of blood, staining the bed red. He smiled bitterly and said, "How powerful! What's wrong?" Doing asked hurriedly. Li Tsubing shook his head. Puffed. Deng Datong spat out another mouthful of blood. He sighed to himself. After recovering from his injuries, he needed to replenish his blood. He had already spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Blood was vital energy. If he did not replenish it, his cultivation level would be affected. "This damned Zhao De!" "Senior brother Deng, senior brother Li, What's wrong? Doing asked in surprise. Li Tsubing said, Old Deng's inner force is too strong. I can't compare. Deng Datong smiled bitterly. Looks like I'll have to ask for your help. Deng Datong's cultivation level was now twice as high as it used to be. If any inner force tried to invade his body, he would immediately be attacked by two different inner forces. One was yin, and the other was yang. One was like water, and the other was like fire. The power of the combined attack was not only superimposed, but it was also several times stronger. As such, no one in the same generation could withstand it. Li Tsubing smiled gloatingly. Which senior can help you? I don't think there's any hope. Deng Datong frowned. He was not very popular among the seniors. It seemed that none of them liked him, so he was afraid that no one could help him. If it really doesn't work, I'll ask the saint. Deng Datong scoffed. Doing shook her head. The saint won't help easily. Otherwise, she'll die of exhaustion. The saint will only help if his life is in danger. However, she won't cure him. She'll only stop after saving him. The saint's time is precious. Deng Datong's face turned bitter. Are we going to drag this on? This Zhao De is so vicious. He finally understood why Zhao De agreed so readily. It turned out that he knew that he would be injured and could not be cured in 8 days. How despicable. Doing sighed. Senior brother Deng, junior brother, Zhao has been stumbling since he joined the sect. He looks like a fool, and everyone can take advantage of him. In fact, he hasn't taken advantage of anyone. Deng Datong sighed and shook his head. He had made a mistake this time. He thought that Zhao De was easy to bully. He did not expect him to turn hostile and attack him in front of the saint. However, the saint did not say anything. It was obvious that Zhao De knew the saint's bottom line. He was an extremely smart person. Deng Datong felt a little regretful. If he knew that Zhao De was such a person, he would not have used this method. He believed that Zhao De would not have given in if he had used other methods. However, it was too late to change now. He had lost all decorum and was injured. Junior Sister Du, I can only ask for your help. Please help me report to the saint. Deng Datong sighed. Doing nodded. I'll report to the saint. Thank you very much. Deng Datong gave a fist salute. Doing turned around and left the courtyard. Li Tsubing chuckled and shook his head. Old Deng, I didn't expect this to happen to you. You have to be careful of that Zhao De. Deng Datong scoffed. He's vicious. All right, stop trying to drive a wedge between us. I won't have a conflict with him. You, on the other hand, don't lose your life. Li Tsubing laughed sarcastically. Since you know that he's ruthless, why don't you be more obedient? He can crush you like an ant. Through what Chu Li had done to Deng Datong, Li Tsubing was already in awe. Such a person was not on the same level as him. He could not afford to offend him. He wouldn't dare. Deng Datong said confidently. If anything happens to me, the saint won't let him go. So what? Li Tsubing said. You're already dead. He could even survive killing an altar leader, let alone a powerless person like you. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.